What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the S.O.B.cast, sport of bowling, of course, naturally. I've been meaning to get another one of these out. The first one I did was at the beginning of the year, and I wanted to do these a little bit more regularly. So hopefully that will be a thing. But again, the intent for this is to be more of kind of a casual, but honest, kind of cutting, kind of go anywhere type of commentary on things. A little bit less of kind of a fun hangout show or whatever else. I'm going to want to talk about specific things. I'm going to have specific angles I want to go, but wherever the conversation goes, it just goes. But naturally, I had to wear my Patch Pirate jersey for this, as coined by Big Mike from the Sweep the Rack podcast. I got to shout him out because he's the genius that came up with it. I'm going to be having some Grand Traverse Distillery Isles O Rye Michigan Straight Rye Whiskey. Been meaning to drink this on the breakdown pair the last several shows. Got sent by a buddy who went on a trip through the distillery and saw this stuff and tasted it and thought of a conversation that we had. They came out for a tournament that we had. So this stuff's very interesting for you whiskey sippers or whiskey connoisseurs. It tastes like a rye. It's a good spicy rye right up front, but then it finishes peaty like a scotch. And so it's just kind of a wild experience. I'm really appreciating for sending this out. Are you just using the fact that there is no PBA show as an excuse to do this? Yes, a little bit. I had planned on continuing to do the show commentaries and stuff, but there is no show on tonight. So I figured, well, hey, I have the night's open, and I've been wanting to get to one of these since I did the first one. So, yep. So what we're going to talk about tonight, obviously, is the whole staffing thing. And I'm not gonna sit here and try to be Billy Badass and the staffing thing is stupid and people are stupid and whatever else. Just now because I'm not a staffer anymore. It's just I'm not just gonna dump on it. We're gonna talk about it again. I like hitting things from both sides. I like being critical of something, but I also like playing devil's advocate and making excuses for it too, because that's to me is the only real way that you can figure out what the truth is or where what is actually going on. Because it's one thing to just dump on something and if you don't like it or whatever else, but it's another thing to actually critically look at it and actually figure out whether you should be dumping on it or not. There's a lot of people typically that's kind of the big thing right now for a lot of people is being on staff with a company. And throughout my experience being on staff, first of all, this is something that Chris Beans from Bowler's Rant pointed out the other day, because I think Hutch from the Hype was talking about having like a membership or some of his own like channel staffers or whatever. And then Chris got on there and said, yeah, staff kind of, it's not the greatest term to use for this in the first place, because staffing kind of sounds like you're employed, and staffers aren't employed. They're representatives. They're members. They're something else other than staff. What if people actually are stupid? Oh, some people are actually stupid. And to kind of return to a point Like I said, I'm not gonna, now that I'm not on staff, I'm not just gonna dump on the entire thing, because I actually got in trouble several times for dumping on staffing and staffers while I was a staffer. So I actually had a few conversations because I just don't, in general, like most staffers. You have your, I think I wrote a little bit about this in the description for this stream, but you have like your pro staff who are bowling professionally. That's why they're on staff. You can call them a staffer because they actually get paid. Pro staffers, I don't know what all the contracts entail, but I know that they do get a lot of equipment and they do get paid. It's a staff position. They are, or they're kind of like a contractor, I guess, basically. So pro staff, regional staff. No, just put it up here. No, I'll just put it up here be easier for me to get to later. So then, you have your pro staff, you have your regional staff, and then you have your pro shop staffers, which are basically, the point of that is to have people represent your product. The idea of this from the manufacturers, from the businesses that want to have staffers or representatives, the idea is that if you have pro shop staffers, they are in a position to physically affect sales. And the idea is that somebody that's on staff is going to know what they're doing. So you would expect, it's not the thing, but unfortunately, way too many pro shop owners and employees, they just don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. A lot of people do it as a hobby because it is very hard to have an actual business with actual professionals working in a pro shop. Most of the time, it's somebody that wants to do it on the side, or somebody that's in their garage, or somebody that wants to do it. And not saying that, I do stuff in my garage too. I don't have a pro shop. I do things in my garage, and there are a couple people I drill for. But it's very hard to run an actual pro shop business. And even if you're good, even if you're successful, it just doesn't pay the bills, because the money is just, you guys would be stunned how bad the money is in pro shops. But the idea of having a pro shop person as a staffer is to have them know your products the best. And the idea of having a staffer, period, is that they know what they're doing. They know your product line so that they can actually help people find the right product, the right equipment, the right whatever else. That's the key, is that they're most familiar with that equipment, not necessarily so that a pro shop can sell, because there's no commission. You're not going to get kickbacks like, oh, I sold this many storm balls this year, and you get a certain cut or percentage. That doesn't actually happen. But the idea is that because the pro shop operator knows more about this specific brand, they're more familiar with it, and so they're able to explain that brand's products to the customer better. That's the idea. And in return, the pro shop can give the company actual numbers to let them know what kind of an impact or influence that having them on staff has had. And so when I got on staff with Storm, when I was in the pro shop, I was able to send numbers every quarter to my rep, and that way they had something actually concrete to work with. Something like, having a YouTube channel is all fine and good, but what's a view worth? What's a click worth? What's a view worth? What's an impression worth? They really have no idea. I have some kind of an idea. And it's more based on market value than actual value, or kind of estimated value. No, value is what, there's some things that, again, like antiques or like rare bowling balls or something's value is what people are willing to pay, because trying to figure out what it's actually worth is a little nebulous. So in this case, clicks and views are kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, well, what are advertisers willing to pay to advertise on, put advertisements and promotions and commercials and whatever else on your videos? Then, by relation, what is that actual video worth, so to speak? Yeah, this is great. If you sell the most storm balls, they throw a dinner in your honor. You're just not invited to the dinner. It's like the memes that they put out. It's like, oh yeah, corporate said we're doing a great job. We have record numbers. Here's the pizza party. Then you get down to the part that I don't like. And I don't even like the pro shop. I understand the pro shop thing. The regular staffers is where it starts to lose me. Because, and this is something that I wholeheartedly agree with Big Mike and Brooklyn Rob on Sweep the Rack when they talk about this stuff. And those guys, it took me a little bit to figure it out. Those guys, they dramatize stuff a little bit. Like, all the stuff that they complain about or get really hot under the collar about, they're not actually that mad about it. It just makes for a good show. They're putting on a show. They actually have problems with these things. They don't like, Big Mike hates house shots. He doesn't actually hate house shots, but he doesn't like them. He doesn't like staffers and ball video people and whatever else. And I completely get that. And that's why I thought it was so funny. That's why this jersey exists, and because he's a patch pirate, and I thought it was hilarious, even though I am a patch pirate. And so I had to get the jersey made because I get it. I didn't take offense and, oh my God, these guys just don't know what they're talking about. What's he ever done? And blah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's hilarious, and I get the point. The problem is that a lot of these staffers don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They do as little as possible to continue to get contracts. And the only reason that they want any kind of anything is that it's like a status symbol to them. They don't want to be a good representative for the company. They don't want to know what they're talking about. They don't want to know the product line. They don't want to buy everything, which it's not a requirement, but it kind of should be. It's like if you're a representative and you're on staff, or if you're a representative for a company, you should know the product line and you should be able to help other people out with that product line. That's the whole point. The problem is that staffers, the majority of staffers, because you're not going to have a lot of pro staff, you're not going to have a lot of regional staffers. And so the pro shop staffers are kind of, there's a major problem there too, though. Chris, I made the mistake of reading that while I was trying to take a sip. I can't snort this stuff. This stuff is fabulous. By the way, I love this stuff. I love the spicy stuff that really punches you in the throat, because I don't like drinking. I really just love the way that beer tastes. I love the way that whiskey tastes. I love getting into the different kinds and the different flavors and whatever else. But I'm getting old, and it doesn't. I don't like hangover. I don't like beer or whiskey well enough to have hangovers, and I really don't want to. I really don't like getting buzzed. I just don't like it. I'm a little bit of a control freak, and so I love the way this stuff tastes, but I don't like I don't really like the effects. And so the stronger tasting something is, the better I like it, because I can have less of it and get more taste, basically. So this stuff hits with the burn and the spice just instantly, and then you get that awesome rye flavor, and then it starts to mellow out, and then it finishes peaty. It finishes like a scotch. And so this is just, I might have to have him, I might have to get a case. Basically Mary Kay. Yeah, Mary Kay, but I think Mary Kay actually knows those women actually know their product lines. Let me see, just to grab a couple of the earlier questions because I don't want to skip on by them. So since you're a free man, what ball that you have drilled up has become one of your favorite balls, excluding Storm? I think probably the favorite one right now is the Ultimate Defender. That one's been the one that I really like the way it rolls. It's kind of a good offset of my Summit, and it's one of the few that I can actually get down the lane and control on a house shot. I love the Theorem, but it's too flippy. It's like a stronger Virtual Energy Blackout, and I already couldn't throw that one. I don't get to throw ASIMs very much to begin with. And most of the balls I drilled, well, I really like the Black Hammer. But the urethane stuff is just, I'm not going to throw that on a house shot. But I really do like the Black Hammer. If I bolt on tougher stuff more, that would probably be it. I do like the Ultimate Defender. The 3.0 is hanging out there too. That had been a little too strong to begin with, but as I've gotten some games on it, it's tamed down. So yeah, I think Ultimate Defender and 3.0 probably are the front runners right now. The sad thing is I like so much of it, but I just can't throw very much of it. The Hater is one of the new batch. The Hater and the new Conspiracy. Man, if I can get that GB5 to tame down. Thoughts on HK22 now that you've thrown a few balls? Very dynamic, very consistent and stable in oil. That is, this is one of those things I've been talking to a lot of people about. I think that, especially with regard to not having a whole lot of staffers, a lot of Storm staffers on TV so far this year. Now, when they've been on TV, they made the most of it. But there's been a couple shows where they've just been straight up shut out. This is very early into the season to just have some of the best players in the world on staff and not be able to get people on TV. But I think that Storm stuff it's kind of flipped. Like Storm stuff, I think handles friction better now, but the Brunswick stuff handles oil better. So the Brunswick stuff is really strong. It's really dynamic, and so I think that it just fits perfectly. I think that they've probably the tour guys have a much better look out of the Brunswick stuff than they do out of the Storm stuff. But because of drier conditions in most people's leagues, I think that a lot of the Brunswick stuff is probably just going to be too strong. And Motive lives somewhere in the middle because I just drilled a Venom Shock and another ball which shall remain nameless at this point. If you know, you know. But the Venom Shock feels a lot like my Summit, but it's a little bit. Well, and that's the weird thing is that it's hard because the Summit doesn't act like any of the other Storm balls. The Summit actually acts like a Motive ball, as I've figured out here recently. But yeah, Motive is kind of right in the middle. It's a little more stable and consistent in oil than the Storm stuff, but it's not quite as overwhelmingly strong as the Brunswick stuff. So, yep, Robert Smith has studied the Big B equipment since signing. Going to Ozarks Open. Yep, we'll be there in a couple months now. Randall, does anyone know the oil pattern for 2024? Yeah, they have them on the website. So if you go to Greater Ozarks website, they have both the patterns that you can find. I was going to this one pro shop. You get back on topic. The guy drills a good ball, but if you ask him anything about the balls, good luck. He would just say the more money, the more hook. And see, that's the thing is that people say, well, go to your, and I recommend that. I say, go to your pro shop, talk to your pro shop. But when I've given stuff away before, I actually plug stuff for quite a few people, and I don't really have the time to do it much anymore. But I've plugged stuff in the past because they said, well, I took it into my shop and look what they did. And they just royally screwed the plug work up. And I'm like, okay, well, I can do a better job than that. And plus, I can put some pictures on Instagram and Facebook and whatever else. And yeah, that's the sad thing is that in bowling as a whole, if you're good at doing something, you can make 2 or 3 times the money doing it in some other industry and just leave bowling as the hobby. If you're a good mechanic, you can make a whole lot more money than working as a bowling alley mechanic. If you're good at just general shop type of work. I mean, the stuff in the pro shop translate. If you have good skills in a pro shop, those skills are going to translate to other shop type things. Again, being in a mechanic, working in a mechanic shop, doing carpentry, doing whatever else, installing flooring. I mean, whatever else. If you have those skills, tend to translate from different jobs to different jobs, and you'll make a hell of a lot more doing something else than you will in a pro shop. And so, a lot of the people do it on the side. They do it as a hobby. They do it kind of extra, limited hours, or there's somebody that's retired that again just does it as a hobby now for something to do. And bowling is one of the very few where the longer somebody has said that they've been in the bowling, and well, I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm like, oh gosh, you're the last person I want to talk to, because that means that you're still stuck 40 years ago. Most people in other industries, they say, I've been doing this for 40 years. It's like, wow, you've got a lot of experience and you probably know what you're doing. In bowling, it's the complete opposite. For most of it. So it's just like, yeah. I wouldn't mind having an ethos and a brutal. Let's see. Bunker. Work as a lane monitor for the grader. Usually the pattern can be found on their website. 39 feet this year instead of 41. Yeah, Bunker, you'll have to. We're bowling the first weekend of June, and I'm pretty sure we have the afternoon team at Sunshine, and then we have doubles and singles in the morning. Sunday, I don't know. Angel had the stuff. Is the problem with non-PBA staffers the companies now seems like they don't look for actual bowlers? I could be wrong. See, this is the thing, is that they don't. And again, going back to Sweep the Rack, they had an interview because Carolyn Dorn-Ballard heard the Patch Pirate thing and she didn't get it, so they explained it to her, and she went on the show and kind of talked about it from her perspective. And that's one of the things is that they talked about. It's like Mike said, staffers now aren't like, if you were a staffer with a company 30 years ago, that actually meant something. Now it just means that they think that you can sell their equipment. So you don't have to be good. You don't really have to know what you're doing. You just, it's like an influencer. Like, and I don't want to say like the Kardashians, because they're actually very, very good. Mama Kardashian knows what she's doing. I mean, just in terms of creating a brand, creating a market, creating a fan base, you don't always have to be like super smart with, because most of the time, the talent of something are usually kind of the dumber ones out of the whole frickin' operation, because there's a lot of sports players, there's a lot of bowlers that have no idea about coaching, bowling balls, layouts, technology, whatever else. They just know, I throw a ball here, a ball strike. That's what they know. And that's one of those things is that, smart on paper, and there's difference between regular smart and book smart. I work with and have worked with engineers for a very long time, so trust me, I know that there are different angles of smart. Watching a stream in the pro shop while working and listening to you complain about staffers' pro shop dues made me laugh pretty hard. I'm not only a member, I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client. Thing. So, yeah. Yep, Widow 3.0. Everybody likes the Widow. A noonish squad both days. Okay. Yeah, my experience, that's one that I would highly recommend about each pro shop. Chris Forey has been doing it a long time, but he's one of the few that I would actually trust. He's got a good track record. Yeah, you should give the Brunswick Infinity a whirl. Notable lefty CEO Ron Hicklin liked it quite a bit. I think I probably would like it, but it's again, I think it's kind of in the same zone. I've seen plenty of them roll, and I think it's in the same zone as the Ultimate Defender and as the Hater. Something that's strong-ish but very blendy and continuous. I do like the shape of it. I just already have stuff that does that. Do you think it would be beneficial to have training centers? That's the problem. The biggest problem is I just don't think, unless it's like the IRTC or Kegel, the market is so small and bowlers are so cheap they don't even want to go spend $4 a game to practice at a local center, let alone and when they do have money, they want to spend it on a bowling ball, not on coaching. So that the problem would be finding and having the market to make something like that financially viable. So yeah, it would be beneficial, but there's a lot of things that would be beneficial, but just unfortunately, because of bowling, the bowling industry in and of itself is not very successful right now for competitive bowling. For open play and for recreational bowlers, it's great. But for competitive bowlers, it's just not great right now. A lot of the problem therein is the bowlers. So to get back to, one of the guys from Kegel came out to Vegas and trying to turn a part of Gold Coast into a training center. So that's cool. And it would work in somewhere like Vegas. It's just you have to be in very large markets. I don't even think it'd work in Kansas City. Kansas City is a pretty big market, and we're very well connected, geographically speaking, for the amount of bowlers that we have in the area and the amount of good, knowledgeable people that we have in the area. But I just don't think it would fly, unfortunately. So to get back to talking about what I was talking about, but this is going to be one of those things. We're going to have discussion. I'm going to kind of go all over the place. So sorry if you're watching this later, but it's just a part of this is having a discussion because again, I've been doing this long enough. I've been involved. I'm keeping up with things. I've had some peeks behind the curtain. I do have enough experience, I think, to talk about this. But the point is that just because I think it or just because I say it doesn't mean it's right. That's the point of having a discussion and trying to dissect things, and that's why I really like the devil's advocate style of figuring something out. It's like, okay, well, I think this or I have this opinion. Now let me try to just absolutely rip it to shreds and poke all kinds of holes in it because I don't want to have opinions. I want to have conclusions because conclusions can be easily changed based on new information or new perspectives. And that's one of the hardest things is that the vast majority of bowlers have opinions. They have hard and fast opinions on things. It's almost like politics. I mean, it's a sad thing about, opening Facebook and having a bunch of bowling friends. The politics and the bowling stuff all sounds the same. It's just a different topic because people are just as divided. People are just as ignorant. They're just as opinionated. And the vast majority of people don't have any idea what they're talking about. But back to the staff thing, the biggest problem is that a lot of these companies, like the Storm has about 1,300 staffers, and I would have to say that 95, or probably 95% of those are just regular staffers, either pro shop staff or amateur staff. And the problem here is that with the pro shop staff, they intend to have the person that's running the shop or that owns the shop on staff. That's who they want on staff. But a lot of the time, it used to be kind of a good look. Like when I got on staff in the first place, part of it was I was just younger, and I had kind of baby face, and I had this glorious mane back then. But part of it is that people, again, when I first got on staff, this has been a decade. A lot has happened since 2015. I mean, if you think back to 2015, there's a crap load of stuff that's happened. Surprisingly enough. But I got on staff specifically to help with the overall image, because if somebody walks in there, they want to walk in there and see, most people want to walk in there and see somebody that's 50 or 60 years old, that's kind of an old school guy that they think, oh, you've been around, you've been doing this long enough, you've been with the game, and you know bowling and whatever else, and that's who I want helping me. I don't want some kid. I don't want some kid helping me, you know. So, but if you're on staff, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, if they're on staff, then this kid must be okay then. And so that was part of it. But I think that a lot of pro shop operators now don't really want to be on staff, because number one, they can buy whatever they want to buy at cost, or at distributor prices, which is still not exactly cheap, but it's cheap enough. They don't want to be tied down to one brand, because it really depends. Like if they're a fairly active, if they work for pro shop and they're fairly active in tournaments and stuff, having the options from all the different companies is better than being locked down to one company and maybe getting stuff a little bit cheaper. Paying a little bit more, but having the variety available, I think is something that's more beneficial. Plus, they don't really want to be seen as biased. That's something that the tide has kind of shifted on that a little bit, because people before would kind of chuckle. It's like, well, I'm kind of interested in this hammer ball, and I know you don't really want to sell me one of those, and it's like, well, no, that's okay. Now people think that you're trying to sell them something. They think, well, if you're on staff with this company, and then all of a sudden, oh, naturally you're going to recommend a ball from the company that you're on staff with. It's like, well, yes, because I know the catalog, not necessarily because I'm trying to sell that equipment. I don't get anything out of it. I mean, I get to keep my staff contract, but that's ultimately not really worth a whole lot. It's more like a rewards program, depending on. Storm took really good care of me, and I'll talk about that in a minute, because I don't want to make any insinuations there. They took really good care of me, matter of fact. But the problem is that, so a lot of the times, the people who are intended to get the pro shop contracts aren't the ones who actually get the contracts. They'll get a VIP deal, or they'll get some kind of something, and Storm will say, hey, you got a successful pro shop, I'd like to put somebody on staff, here's a contract. And they don't really pay attention or really care too much who gets that contract. Because I've heard from an awful lot of people that will say that have, regular people that have sent me something that's like, hey, do you know so-and-so or such and such from this area? And I'm like, no, not really. It's like, how the hell can I not get on staff, but this idiot's on staff? I don't know how many times it seems to be the one single person that nobody can stand, that nobody likes. They're the person that somehow ends up being a staffer in an area. It's like the absolute last person that anybody with a clue in that area would want representing their company if they owned one, and it's that person that's a staffer. Some of the dumbest conversations I've ever had are with staffers. Stuff that you can barely read, have no idea what they're even talking about, sounds like somebody out of the 70s, and it's like, so you do a little profile digging and find, oh, naturally there's a staffer. Okay, so that's why they're an idiot. That makes sense. They find the biggest Kool-Aid drinking idiots out there that it seems like they can find, and that's who gets a contract. But that's the problem with, they don't really vet the pro shop contracts well enough, I don't think, because it can go out to an employee of the shop. Sometimes I've even heard of, oh, this is just a really good customer, and people know them, and so I'm just going to give them to them, not even really affiliated with the shop. They just go to the shop and people know them, and so here, you can have the contract. And then I don't even know how, and this is something that's also changed. Just being a good bowler does not get you even in the door anymore. Storm specifically, if you do not bowl professionally, if you do not bowl at least part-time on the regional tour, or are not employed by or very closely affiliated with a pro shop, aside from extenuating circumstances, very special circumstances, you're just not even getting looked at. So from the company's point of view, again, they want people who are going to represent their product well, and they want people who are going to sell their product. By contrast, most of the people that want to be on staff, which obviously for pro staffers and for people that bowl a lot of regionals, the equipment's expensive. And so cutting that cost is something that's very important to them. And so it's like, yes, I'll sign a contract, but they get somebody that the company gets somebody that is very active in tournaments, that's likely to have kind of a fan base and whatever else. And so, and the professional bowling, the manufacturers support professional bowling. Professional bowling is good for the manufacturers, and so it's kind of a just an agreement there to work together. They both need each other, and so yeah, helping keep each other afloat is definitely something that's important to them. But for the rest of the regular people out there, most people, they don't want to, the vast majority of people don't want to get on, they want to get on staff because they want the status and they want the equipment. And so what that's created, especially with as many people as are on staff right now, again, I said that the Storm has about 1,300 staffers right now, which is insane. But this creates an unfortunate ecosystem that penalizes the good staffers and rewards the shitty ones. Because people will get on staff, and then as soon as they're on, they'll do absolutely, because they don't want the work of promoting the company. They don't want to put posts on social media. They don't want to make video reviews. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. They just want to put the logo on their jerseys and to go around and brag and to get cheap equipment. That's what they want. They don't want, that's all they want, and they'll do as little as possible to get that. The manufacturers, unfortunately, are kind of trapped by that, because it's like, well, if they're not specifically doing something negative, we probably ought, we don't really have any justification for saying, okay, well, you just don't do a whole lot, so we're going to let you go. Because then people get really loud about that. Oh, I was super faithful to this company, and I didn't deserve this. This is bullshit. And they just dumped me and whatever else. Notifications. Vegas has over 50 SPI staffers. I only know of Luis and Darren. Yep. You are the weakest link. Here's a 2-year contract extension. Yeah. Uh-oh. Put Nick to work. Put him to work. Yeah, 1,300 staffers with about 300 having a presence outside their alley and shop. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, this creates a rough ecosystem for the good staffers, the ones that actually do what they're supposed to do, because companies there's a whole lot more demand than there is a need. So the companies get thousands of applications every year, and they turn most of them down. But how it sets it up for the business is that if you have so many people that are willing to spend all kinds of time and all kinds of money promoting their product in return for mediocre discounts, as a company, you got to be fiscally responsible. How do you say no to that? It makes it very difficult on them for even somebody that's worth supporting or that's worth spending money on. As far as the staffer goes, it's like, okay, well, sure, you put in a lot of work, sure, you do a lot of good things, but you also want all this product, and you want to get paid, and you want this and that and the other. And it's like, well, we can just let you go, and for the same amount, or just, for the same amount that we're investing into you, we could have like 20 other staffers for that. Will they be as good? But no, they can cast a whole lot wider net and just see what they catch. And so that's why I, continue to be surprised with as well as they supported me. Because they did keep me in play. Now, they didn't pay me. but they kept me in plenty of equipment. And thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And I'm sure that it was getting really hard for them to justify because of, it's like, well, sure. I mean, having kind of a very visible, kind of popular thing going, that's great. Is it worth what we're spending? I don't know, because there's really, I don't know. But that's kind of part of why I left, is because number one, the rules are just, I agreed with most of the rules, by the way. They're just really restrictive, and it cost me a lot of extra time and money beyond, I did the number several times, and it just wouldn't not being a staffer would put me in a better situation than being a staffer, which is another problem to have. But there's two sides to it. But the other thing is that, again, I've got the new guy, the Tobias and Zach, that I make videos for. They're SPI staffers. Zach bowls a lot. Tobias has two jobs. He works part-time in a pro shop, and I have the experience with editing. I have the YouTube channel, and so leaving staff saved me some time. It's going to be it saved me a lot of time. It's going to be a whole lot more beneficial on the financial side of things too. It gets a couple of Storm's other staffers more visibility. So Storm's got a really good incentives program. And so if you make videos, you get a certain amount of credits. If you write reviews online, you get some more credits for that. But when you have somebody that's just kind of plopping up, when you're just kind of putting up a review to get your credits, and you don't want to be, there's a lot of people, it's like, well, yeah, I want the incentives, but I don't want to be an internet personality or whatever. I don't want to be a YouTube star. I just want to, I want to bowl. I don't want to spend all my time making videos about bowling. And this is something that Chris Bean said. The Bowler's Rant is kind of taking a hiatus, at least for the time being, or semi-retired, I guess. But he's like, yeah, I'm kind of tired of talking about bowling. I actually want to spend that time that I would spend making videos. I want to just be actually out there bowling. And I can identify with that. But so instead of putting videos up on channels where you get 500 to 1,000 views, I can instead make that video, put it up on my channel, and get 10,000 views. It still gives me content. It gets a couple of their staffers a little bit more visible. It gets them more bang for their buck because they're giving out incentives for these videos, whether they get 500 views or 15,000 views. And so obviously, if they're handing the incentives out, they'll take all the views that they can get. Plus, then Storm saves several $1,000s a year on sending me equipment. So it was just a win. I mean, just every single angle I looked at it from. Again, I didn't look at it just from my angle. It was mostly from my angle, but there were benefits for several different people involved, and so it was just so much better of a fit for me to not be on staff anymore, which is kind of a big problem. This is something I put in my final report to him, was that it's like, if it's better for a highly active person that's putting in a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of money into promoting your product, if it's better for them to not be affiliated with your company, if that's actually harming them, that's kind of a problem. But you look at it from Storm's side, and it's kind of like, from their perspective, it's kind of better for them too, because again, they don't have to send me thousands of dollars worth of equipment now. They're still paying incentives out. They get they're still paying incentives out, but not nearly as much as they were, spending on me, basically. Two of their staffers that they were also giving incentives to, now those videos are getting a whole lot more visibility. So it's better for them. They're still getting the videos. They're just not having to invest near the same amount of money, which is a whole lot better for them too. And that is also a problem, is when somebody is representing your company and they're doing it well, and it's just better for all parties involved for those two people to not be affiliated, that's kind of bad. But as far as Storm is concerned, again, as a business being fiscally responsible, I've got to be, and that's another thing I told him, is like, I've got to be I'm, according to my tax guy, I'm a business, and Storm has to be fiscally responsible. The companies, not just Storm, the companies have to be fiscally responsible as well. And so, why would they not sign? I mean, the majority of staffers are basically league bowlers. Whenever Storm makes a batch of equipment, they set aside a third of it for staffers. And so basically, a little quick math tells you that a third of their business is their staffers. So the staffers for companies are more like league bowlers than they are for anything else. They're the constant, steady stream of income throughout the entire year, because the bowling industry, gets slow over the summer. It doesn't when you got all kinds of staffers that are still bowling tournaments in the summer and summer leagues and whatever else. They're the ones that keep the lights on and keep keep that steady cash flow coming in. Let me catch up with the. I'm doing okay right now.
Okay. Do you want to just take it back up then?
Yeah. I think I've got this funny. I just haven't muted it yet. So.
I just thought of this since you said the other was noisy.
Yeah. Oh, holy balls! There's the other thing. Yeah, and some staff deals where you actually pay to be on staff. That's hilarious. Storm makes it worth your while. I think Storm's got the best staff program out there because the prices are very competitive. Brunswick's the cheapest, but Storm's not that much more. Plus, they have that incentives program. So if you buy a ball at staff price and you do all the incentives, you make the video and you do the web reviews and whatever else, you can get more than the ball costs in incentives. And so basically, buying 2 balls and doing incentives for those 2 balls will buy you 3 more balls. And so you can just kind of keep chaining those and rotating those. And so they do have a very good program. The problem is another problem is that they don't have a whole lot of people take part in the incentives program. The web reviews are worth $5 a website, and there's only like 8 of them. So it's not like, okay, we'll just go put you can rack up $500 worth of incentives for this one ball just by putting a paragraph on 70 million different websites. But it's like, okay, well, those are easy to sit in. You can knock all that in an hour. You just got to write a paragraph about the ball, talking about a little bit about the reaction. These are my stats. This is the layout. This is the conditions. This is blah blah blah, and just write a short and sweet little thing, and then post it on a few different websites. Put the links in, or submit the links for your incentives, and you're done. The video, however, is even making a simple video. The time investment, just the time investment, even making a very simple basic video takes several hours. Even if you're working in a pro shop, because if you're in a pro shop, and this is what I used to do. I mean, I used to just go out there. If it was slow one afternoon, I'd just go out there and shoot my video, and then I'd come back in, and if I didn't have anything to do, I'd just edit it on shop time. And that's because I was using it for shop promotion. The boss is all too happy to have me actually doing something rather than just sitting there waiting for people to walk in. So that was no skin off his nose. But even if you're in the shop doing that, it takes a while to put together even a very shitty low budget video if you don't know what you're doing and you're just making things very, very basic. It still takes a couple hours to do. And the thing is dealing with all of that and then having to come back and answer questions later and blah, blah, whatever. People are like, I'd just rather pay for the stuff that I want and not have to mess with this whole thing. Now, from Storm's point of view, they give out a certain amount of money for a pretty good amount of money for videos. but they also have somebody that manages. They have a couple people that manage the whole thing, and so their investment is well beyond just the $100 that they give you for the video. They have somebody that manages all that. Then they have all kinds of people to handle and manage the staff, and so it's more. You're getting the $100, but it's significantly more expensive to provide the program to give you, that $100 basically. But very few people actually take advantage of it because it's just not worth it. It's just so much easier to just like, I'd just rather pay the money for the bowling ball and then be done with it and not even have to worry about it. So, yep. This is the other thing that so the twist there is that, so the good ones feel taken advantage of because I can put in all the effort and do all the work and get the same $100 that somebody just really super half-assing something. I can be on top of it and get something out just as soon as possible to be able to promote it and answer all kinds of questions and get people ready for release day and whatever else. But somebody else can just kind of casually get around to it whenever they get around to it, and put a video up a month after release date and collect their incentives and just never come back and answer any questions and whatever else, and get 500 views. They get the same $100 incentives that I got for getting 10, 15,000 views, answering all kinds of questions, being tech support, helping people out, whatever else. It's the same $100. And so it's like, okay, well, why would I put in that level of effort to just get the same thing? And so it's almost incentivized to put in the absolute lowest amount of effort possible to get your cheap stuff and move on. And so the good staffers, it's like, well, this just sucks. This is not a good situation. And the shitty ones just kind of hang around. And this is something kind of reminds me of one of my favorite stories, talking to Megan. That if you're a Storm staffer, Megan. Megan's freaking awesome. But going back to me, there would be several times where I'd be on bowling forums or whatever else, and some idiot staffer would say something. We had this guy notoriously on ball reviews that he would write his web review on ballreviews.com, and it was just one gigantic run-on sentence. You couldn't understand a word of it. It was just a bunch of gibberish and nonsense, and so everybody would get in the comments to flame him, and I would get in there and say, well, this person's an idiot. This is not representative of what staffers should be, and don't listen to them and whatever else. And of course it's like, well, you can't publicly run our staffers into the ground or whatever else. It's like, okay, whatever. And I would frequently post chippy bitchy stuff whenever somebody put some idiotic comment in our staff group or in our staff chat. I would kind of go at them, and it would, I wouldn't really get in their ass or get confrontational. I'd just put some really chippy, bitchy, passive aggressive stuff in there, and then just kind of dip out. And I said on the last S.O.B.cast when I was talking about leaving staff and whatever else, they have one of the best. They have it's like a 30-page staff handbook, but it's got everything in there. It's got who you need. It's very well organized. It's very detailed. It just lines everything out, and everything's very specific. Everything's very informative. Everything they can't have communicated anything any better than in that staff handbook. And you still have the idiots that will not read the handbook, that aren't in the staff, that don't read any of the staff group posts, that don't read any of the staff chat stuff. They don't read their emails. They don't do shit. And they will post the dumbest stuff. I mean, because people will put several posts about, so I guess that recently they've had, the Optimum Idol has been so popular that they're having problem fulfilling the orders quickly. And so it's like, okay, well, we push the date off. Shipping's going to be a little delayed, and so if you order some, it doesn't get shipped for a week. We're just behind on shipping. We've had a lot of orders and whatever else. We got to get those fulfilled. And so they'll put posts in the staff group. They'll put comments in the staff chat. they will send out an email saying, okay, well, we've moved this date, or put out something saying, okay, well, we're a little bit backed up on shipping. So as always, email Megan. That's one of the things. It's like, you just email Megan. Don't clog up the staff group. Don't clog up the staff chat. We don't just, if you have a comment, question, concern, email Megan. She will either take care of it or get it where it's supposed to go. And you wouldn't be surprised, actually, the amount of dumbasses that still get in there after this stuff has been talked about a million different places for the last week and a half, and still say, hey, do we have any updates on shipping? I ordered this ball and I still don't have it. And I just didn't know who to talk to about it. Those were the people that I would get on there and flame, because Megan doesn't deserve that. She doesn't deserve having to deal with that kind of stupidity. And that person's just still going to get to keep being a staffer. They don't have to pay attention to anything. They don't have to do anything. They can just go on about their merry little way. And, so I have a problem much more with the staffers than I do with the company. I really have very, very few problems with the company. Some of the rules were kind of stupid. And just, again, as I explained why the situation wasn't great, it was more a result of the situation itself, not necessarily the company. It's just the situation itself doesn't lend itself towards being a good situation for somebody that puts in effort and spends time and money on doing the stuff. So, I mean, I don't, the company took really good care of me, and every time I had a complaint, even as bitchy as I get, they were very receptive to it. They listened. I have a few complaints, but they're not really. I mean, it's very, very little to do with the company itself. So that's just one of those things. My biggest problem was the staffers, and so the funny thing was, we got a guy here in the area that bowls part-time regionally, or on the regional tour, almost full-time. And he asked me about, who to talk to talk about getting on staff. And so I reached out to my rep, and then I sent an email in, and this has just been a couple years ago. This was starting with the 2022 season. It might even have been 2023. No, I think this is going to be his third year on staff. Anyway, I sent an email into Megan, and I said, look, I know that I don't do this ever, but I said, there's going to be an application coming in, and I very strongly urge you to sign this person. Because my rep was kind of on the fence about it. He's like, I'm not sure. He's like, I know he's bowling regional stuff. I'm just not sure how active he's going to be, representing the company. Because there's a lot of people that just like, I want a staff deal so that I can just get cheap shit, and then they don't want to have any responsibility with any of the other stuff. And I said, no, this is, trust me, this will be good. And so I sent the email into Megan, and I said, well, if we can't put somebody like this on staff with all those other effing idiots that we have, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Because this guy he won a collegiate national championship with Wichita. He's got a team eagle with Prather and Hoope, by the way. He shot 300 at nationals with our group a couple years ago. He carries himself very professionally. You're not ever going to see him fry out at a tournament and beat a monitor up. You're not going to, he carries himself well. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He works hard. If we can't put somebody that's carries themselves professionally, knows what they're doing, and has a resume, if we can't give a contract, even a basic one, don't even give him anything. Just let him have access to the cheap shit. If we can't put somebody like that on staff, then this is all stupid. This is all just ridiculously stupid. And they did put him on staff, and it's gone well. But Megan actually called me up, and Megan's hilarious because she's got a very dry, sarcastic kind of sense of humor, very, very cutting, very, a very, for those of you that watch the show Wednesday on Netflix, Megan's not nearly as dark as Wednesday is, but she's got that same kind of cutting, biting, sarcastic humor. And she gave me a call and she's like, okay, so what's up with this email? And I said, well, just self-explanatory. And she's like, yeah, but you like hate most of our staffers. You don't have a nice thing to say about most of them. And this has several of us in here very confused because you've literally never in the last 8 years you've been on staff have recommended anybody. I really had nice things to say about hardly anybody, but you're recommending this. So what's up with them? What's the catch? What's the deal here? I said, no, that's just what I just told the camera. I'm like, if we can't put somebody like this on staff, we're screwing up. You know, this is somebody that you, and I appealed to her senses too. I'm like, you will not get dumbass emails from this person. You will not have to deal with their dumbass comments or posts in the staff group, the staff chat. They will be an absolute dream for you to work with. Salesman. Let's see. Yeah, I do wonder how much allotment they get per year. It seems so variable between some content producers and local staffers I see. Local staffers most of the time don't get a whole lot. They get a few $100 a year to kind of buy a few things with. But then again, Storm has the incentives program to where if you put in the work, you can earn yourself quite a bit of extra. You know, it's basically a 1-for-1. You buy a ball, you do all the incentives for it, and that gets you a free ball. It's buy one, get one free, basically, if you do the work. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to do stuff, but it's unfortunately so much easier. Don't breathe it. Don't breathe it. It's unfortunately so much easier to just do as little as possible, just pay for the equipment, skip all the work, and dip out. And the content producers, they have a seed list that a handful of people are on. They send them out stuff early and that was the thing is I had a fairly generous budget to begin with. And then they put me on the seed list, and then they sent me an extra ball for Angel to throw, and so I was getting a pretty generous amount of credits. And then they sent me 2 seed balls for about 50% of the catalog. That's the other thing that kind of chafed me a little bit is I can understand not sending the low end stuff, but not ever sending any of the global stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry, but doing all this work and spending all this money or whatever, I'm not going to pay you to advertise your product. Basically, that's dumb. But yeah, so some of the content producers, like I don't think that they take as good a care as they probably don't take as good a care as Luis as they should, given everything he does. But at the same time, he's got a budget and he's on the seed list and he's got that to work with. I left my PSO gig at the end of 2022. It took me nearly 2 months to convince SPI I wasn't going to re-sign it. To this day, I still get all the staff emails. Yeah, they didn't waste any time taking me off everything, but I made it really clear. Yeah, the discounted prices went up too. Storm's gone up fairly slowly. I think that the prices only went up like $15 per ball from when I started in 2015 to when I ended. So $15 of inflation in a decade, I don't think is that bad. Yeah, a YouTube star, bowling famous. Yeah, and see, this is the thing. This is what lets you know how oddly desperate people are for the clout, I guess. Because you have to pay to be a California bowling staffer. You have to. I think that you have to sign some kind of contract where you have to buy at least like 8 balls a year, and then you have to, or at least the. Somebody tried to get me on Lord Field like 15 years ago or something, and besides just being the dumbest name for a company I've ever heard in my life, I'm like, I can't. I'm not gonna. And I hadn't had a staff deal. I was still relatively fresh into things, and this is back when I did really want, I did really want to be a staffer. And I'm like, dude, I can't be a staffer for Lord Field. Also, while Seismic was around, I got a few of those balls that I actually really liked. The Raging Bull Longhorn was really good, and the Venator. Those they sent me a few balls to test out. Those were actually really good, but it was the same kind of deal. It's like you had to commit to buying 8 balls a year at like even back then it was like $140 a pop. And so that's, it's $1,000 some odd dollars. You have to buy this many balls, and then you have to find 6 new staffers, and that's your requirement to be able to get a contract for next year. And it's like, well, I like the equipment, but this is not a staff deal. This is like an obligation. This is like a membership I'm purchasing or something. This is ridiculous. But people are so desperate to say that they're on staff that they will. And again, other companies like Bolify too. If you want to be on staff with a jersey company, send something to Bolify. They literally take everybody. And so I'm so honored and privileged to be on staff with Bolify, and I'm like, okay, I know an area rep from Colorado that is with Bolify, and she's amazing. And if I wasn't on with Coolwick, I'd probably be on with Bolify, to be quite honest. But I'm so honored and privileged. It's like, yeah, it's just like California bowling or whatever else. If you just say, hey, count me in, and they're, oh, you're in. So yeah. How can there be more money injected into the sport? Is overstaffing a problem in that regard? Lazy staffers don't help, obviously. I think it is a problem. And that's why I kind of titled this "Something Has to Change." I think the ecosystem, just in general, is really bad. So you're going to continue, and the ecosystem on YouTube is kind of bad too. And there's a lot of people that have told me, it's like, well, I can't stand this clickbait shit and trying to come up with, it's either strongest ball ever or flippiest ball ever, or is this the ball we've been waiting for, or this is the ball we've been waiting for. Most of the people that do that don't like it, can't stand it, but if they don't do it, nobody will click on the video. And so it doesn't matter if you can make the best video in the world, but if nobody watches it, there's 0 point. You can make the worst video in the world, but if you have a fancy title and a thumbnail and people watch the video, you're going to be successful. And it boils down to idiot bowlers just either wanting to be on staff and finding and doing as little as possible just so they can get their cheap stuff and be able to say I'm on staff with somebody, or people putting a bunch of effort and time into a YouTube channel just to try to put out information and try to do this all this other stuff just to not get any traffic. It's like, okay, I guess I got to sell out and put a bunch of dumb shit on my thumbnails and in my titles just to get people to watch the video. And so at that point, you kind of do what you got to do to at least be able to get videos of any kind out there. It's like, okay, I can either make clickbaity, bullshitty, fluffy videos, or I can make nothing. That's really what it boils down to. And so people will, they'll be all the white knight and say, oh, you've got to, you need to be informative and do this and that and the other. It's like, well, you can't. There's no way to sustain that. It's unsustainable doing that. And then as soon as they do something to say, okay, well, I've got to play the game a little bit to get some traffic. I make good videos, and so I got to play the game a little bit to get some traffic on these. And then everybody, oh, well, he's just selling out for clicks and views. That's all he cares about. It's just abusing people just so that they can be YouTube famous. It's like, well, being YouTube famous in the bowling world is kind of stupid. I've done the numbers myself several times. I could literally go get a part-time job at McDonald's instead of doing for 15 hours a week, I could go be a door greeter at Walmart. And I'm not saying anything about those jobs in general. I'm saying about what those jobs pay, basically. I could go get a lower paying job, a minimum wage job, and work very few hours a week and come out further ahead than I do doing the YouTube thing, especially for the time involvement. The time, if we're talking about sheer input, output, net gain, I could work probably 15 hours a week at, just say at Walmart, and now that they're paying more, that helps. Minimum wage wouldn't be a big enough gain to really do it. But if I go get a part-time job somewhere and make like $12 to $15 an hour, I could do that for 10 or 15 hours a week and come out further ahead than I do putting 50 or 60 hours a week into YouTube. So somebody getting up on their soapbox and saying, "Oh, these guys are just, all this clickbait nonsense. They're just trying to get views so that they can get ad revenue." And it's like, well, there's a lot of easier ways to do it than by having a bowling channel. So that's something else there. But overstaffing is basically kind of just, again, like I said, staffers are kind of like company league bowlers. They keep the lights on. They keep, again, the steady cash flow throughout the year. But the problem it creates is that everybody's so invested into trying to keep their contract or to move product or to, the bowling industry is reduced to people having to step on other people's heads to survive, trying to get more views, more clicks, move more product. Look at me over here. And so everybody's just confused in general. And it's just, they're giving the market what the market wants. Bowling's kind of like fast food right now. They're giving the market what the market wants. There's no nutritional value. There's no anything of substance. It's just basically what they're doing is they're taking advantage of the kind of addictive nature of bowlers, I guess, to continue to give them their fix without that really doing anything for them. And I would say that the companies do kind of I would say that I am not going to say this because there's another side to it. I would say that the companies are taking advantage of people who want staff deals by signing up super desperate people and then giving them next to nothing in return for having all the advertisement, promotion, whatever else. And so basically, again, these people are signing up to be staffers to spend a bunch of their free time and money promoting somebody else's product in return for mediocre discounts on equipment. But to get slightly political here for a second, if people want to complain about minimum wage, stop accepting it. The staffers are the ones that sign on the dotted line. The staffers are the ones that are accepting it. It's like, okay, I got a contract. I don't really care what's on it. I'm just so honored and privileged to represent the company that I just don't care. I'll put the work in, and I thank you so much for the opportunity. And the company's kind of like, I mean, if it makes you happy, whatever. Here you go. You do you, boo-boo. But it's just like, back in the day, the fight for 15, and we need a livable wage, and we need whatever else. It's like, you guys are the ones accepting these jobs for minimum wage. If you want to make more money, go get a different job. And I know it's not oh gosh, okay, so it just must be so easy. Just go get any job, huh? Okay, we've got this situation, whatever else. Regardless of the situation, you accepting what you're offered is a you problem, not a them problem. And as long as people continue to accept what they're offered, the offer is never going to change. That's why people job hop so much now. Because if you stay at the same, they've done several studies on this. you can increase your money so much more by job hopping. Go somewhere, work for a couple of years, go somewhere else, work for a couple more years, go somewhere else, work for a couple of years, and you can get 15 to 20% raises every time you hop, because it's like, okay, well, I work for this company and I've done this job for this number of years, and so because they need skilled people, they will offer you something to entice you to come over. But then once you get into a job, the raises don't keep up with what you can get by job hopping. So it used to be a thing where you would get a job and you would stay there for your entire career. My dad stayed with the same, he worked for the state for almost 45 years for the Department of Transportation. It's just, that's really tough to do anymore. Or it's a whole lot more financially it's a whole lot more financially beneficial to job hop than it is to stay with the same company. And to flip back to it, it's like, I can't blame the companies at all, because the companies pump a whole lot of money back into bowling. They're already making not enough money to make it a very good financially viable business, but they're pumping so much more energy back into, because they paying professionals is the only company, manufacturers paying professionals is the only reason that the tours exist. Because if you're not in the top 15 in earnings on the PBA tour, you can't afford to do it without being already independently wealthy or having some independently wealthy person sponsor you. If you're outside the top 15 on the money list, you can't afford to do it. You just can't. It's the same for all the tours. And so the manufacturers will pay the bowlers to kind of create their, whatever they get as far as winnings go is a bonus. But the PBA doesn't pay any, they don't pay salaries to anybody. It's not like a team sport like basketball or baseball or whatever else. You don't get a salary to play for a team. You either win money or you don't, and you go get a regular job. And so the companies will staff these people, staff the professionals, and will pay them something as kind of the manufacturers are the team that's kind of paying them their salary, which is, it's kind of like an endorsement deal. It's kind of, but it'd be kind of funny, but it's, but it's the way that professional golfing works too. You can finish last place. If you get your PBA Tour card and you finish last place all year, you're going to be fine. You could finish literally in last place and it'd be just fine living on a last place PGA salary. So the problem is, again, the bowlers. I don't blame the company for this at all, because even just looking at my own YouTube channel, there's a lot of stuff that I would rather not do. And there's a lot of stuff that I kind of recently said, you know what? I don't like the idea of compromising stuff. Like if you, like for YouTube, if you make a video that's longer than 8 minutes, it qualifies for extra ads. And so that's why a lot of the channels you see putting videos out, they're all over 8 minutes, because it gets you more ad revenue that way. And I have tried to do that, but it takes so much more time and so much more effort to stretch a video out artificially. And so that's why my last run of Brunswick videos were 5 to 6 minutes long. And I'm like, it just cringe a little bit giving up the extra ad revenue, but it's like, I have a hard time doing it anymore. I want to make bowling videos. I don't want to have to worry about the ad revenue. I don't want to have to worry about stretching a video out and making it a less pleasant experience for the viewer. It's just like, you know what? I've got plenty of enough stuff to make videos for. Even if I make a little bit less, I'm still going to be doing just fine. So I've got members. I've got a bunch of great people in Patreon and the Discord, and that's good enough. And I don't know. I don't want to be, but and the other thing is, it really, gives me a bad name being a staffer, being a ball video guy because of what everybody else is doing. That's what really got to me, is that it used to be saying, oh, I'm on staff was a good thing. Now it's like, no, I don't want to have anything to, no, I'm not a staffer. No, definitely not. Because it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to be seen as a staffer now, or as a ball review guy. And that's the thing, is that when I keep wanting to call him Magic Mike. That'd be a good one. Big Mike, with the guys who sweep the rack, the Patch Pirates and YouTube ball video guys, and I get it. I'm right there with them. You know, I wouldn't mind going on the show someday and talking to them about it, because I'm right there with them. I agree, but I am at the same time a ball video guy. And you do have to jump through a certain amount of YouTube hoops to even get the stuff available for people. But it's just rough out there, man. It's a bummer. It's a bummer, man. I assume pros are being counted as staffers in this talk. Yeah, they're in the number, in the 1,300 number, but Storm, it's maybe 50 pro staff. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I can't believe those posts do anything for ball sales. They come across like they were written by bots. Yes, they do, because people are trying to put as little effort as possible into getting their incentives. But here's the reason for that. This is one of those very intelligent kind of sleight of hand things that I really enjoy. Is that they're not necessarily doing it because they think that reviews, because if you go into a ball page on a website, Bowler's Mark, for example, and you look at all the reviews, it's just a bunch of cookie cutter bullshit by a bunch of staffers that are just they got a 5-star everything to get their, to make sure that they look good for the guy reviewing them so that they can continue to get their contract. The point of that, though, is not that they think that that's useful at all. It's to train people to get in the habit of talking and promoting. So if you can get them in the habit of doing it, it's like Pavlov's dog or whatever, with the ringing the bell, and you ring the bell, give the dog some food, ring the bell, give the dog some food, and then you ring the bell and the dog starts drooling without even giving them food. That's the kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, if you get people to put these reviews on these websites and you give them $5 for it, then they'll be more inclined to make Facebook posts and Instagram posts, TikTok, whatever else. And so the goal is not the reviews on the websites. It's the everything else around it. So I really appreciate that quite a bit. So is it worth bowling on certified string pins to get away from Bolero? The manager or our local Bolero keeps messing with the air conditioning, certified string pins are, I would think that they'd be kind of fun because they're a little tougher. It's kind of like bowling on a sport shot to a certain extent. They add a little bit of extra difficulty because they're harder to carry on. So I would think so. If it was bowl at a Bolero or go bowl on certified string pins at a decent center, I'd definitely pick the certified string pins. Not many people, I don't know, not a lot of people would do the same thing. I would. My basic videos are still 5+ hours. Yeah, that's why I need to do more live streams. I need to put up a sign like Stu Williams does. Just here for the super chats. I've never tried to do video editing. Simple video for what I would expect, though, would be house shot, challenge shot with a one comparison ball. Super understand the time commitment. That's the other thing, is that to make a good video, the time involvement is wild. Plus, then you've got to find a center that is willing to put down 2 different patterns for you. And then you have to put the time in, then you have to put the editing time in, and you have to understand all these different things. You have to make a eye-catching thumbnail to get people to even watch the video in the first place. Even making a basic video for these incentives is still a fairly large investment. And so that's why not a whole lot of people want to do it. That's why video editing for in general for successful industries, you know, the amount of time that I put into making a bowling video that gets me $50 in ad revenue, I could make it for a company and I sell it to them for $1,000 or $2,000 or something, just for that little advertising video, just like the all videos that I make. And this is the other thing that is, this is the other issue is that YouTube pays what YouTube gets to put advertisements on people's videos. YouTube gets 45% of that, and they pay the creator 55%. And so, oh, okay, I do have super chats from the wife. I gotta catch up. Oh, balls. Okay, where am I at here? Where am I at? 1952. Got to get to him. Thomas, thank you, sir. Sorry, this doesn't, if I'm not keeping up with the chat, this doesn't alert me to when I have a super chat. So sorry for missing that here. Doing my part to keep LR from greeting a Walmart when you have people. Who else is in? I appreciate it. I'm not trying to give a sob story to dig up money, but I'm not going to tell you no. Storm Dog's expensive. Chris Cannon, thank you tons. Super chat, I live for the S.O.B.cast, next drink on me. Let me see what I got in here. I should have some interesting kind of beer. I think I drank one of the interesting kinds of beers. I might have to drink something really interesting. I don't think I have it in me. I've got an Oktoberfest and I've got a Fairhope Causeway IPA that I think I'll do as soon as I finish sipping this stuff up. So my wife was kind enough to bring me a beer glass. Thank you. Oh, James Wick, chipping into the Doggo Treat Fund, chipping into the Dumbass Cone Fund. Appreciate it, Mr. James. I think, I have not checked the standings in a minute, but James was bowling a regional in McPherson, Kansas. They're taking 24 to tomorrow morning. I think there were 80 bowlers, and he was 7th after the first squad, so should be good. Okay. Yes, thank you. I'll pop, once I scroll through again, I'll pop these all up again because I really do appreciate it. It's one of those things that you get in the unfortunate habit of, when I started doing YouTube, getting 100 views on a video was like, oh my God, 100 people watch my video. And now it's kind of like, you know what, if I don't get at least 5,000 views on a video, it wasn't worth my time to make. Just looking at it from a dollars and cents perspective. And that really sucks because it's really trivializing the amount of effort that people put back into me, especially the people that I have on Patreon and in Discord. But anybody that is a fan of the channel and that puts effort into watching, I mean, just giving your time to watch the video. It seems like a very simple thing. Just like the video, watch the video, like the video. But to be invested into the stuff and to be interested and to wait, there's very few channels that I'm a fan of. But there's this one particular movie, show, gaming reaction channel that I like watching. It's called Bad Medicine, BADD. The guys are great. The guys are a lot like I am. They just kind of want to hang out with people. They're not these, they get into the comments, they talk to people, they chat with people, they talk about the people, the commenters and the fans all the time in their videos. And, they kind of take the same approach that I do. And so I really enjoy watching their stuff. And whenever they have, they just, we're going through the Mission Impossible movies, and they just were, watching all the Shrek movies and whatever else, and just waiting to see what they had to say about the movies or whatever else. And they're watching several different shows at the same time and putting up movies all the time. And these are 2-3 hour long episodes, or 2 or 3 hour long investments to make the 1 hour, the 45 minute to an hour episode on on YouTube. Plus now they have a gaming channel where they're playing through games, and just knowing the amount of time and effort that they have to put into this. And if it goes like a couple days without getting to part 2 of the game that they just started, I'm kind of like, oh guys, put some, I'm dying here. What are you doing to me? But understanding it from the YouTube side, it's kind of like that it is an investment from myself too, to be a fan of theirs. And I hate that it kind of becomes a, whenever I put videos up, like the Brunswick release, the video release days are great to just go look on the analytics, and it's like, oh, I got 1,500 views that last hour. That was awesome. But it's 1,500 people that are watching the video, and 1,500 people that are investing their time into it, and other people that are investing actual money to give to a stranger on the internet for making bowling videos. And it feels bad sometimes to just look at numbers, and instead of thinking, well, the numbers are not really worth doing this, because they're not really numbers. They're, people that you're investing. It's people that you're investing into. And the sad thing is that sometimes you just can't afford to do that. Sometimes you just, especially like being at jobs like the pro shop. I mean, we almost went bankrupt from me working at the pro shop for the couple of years, and I had to go get another job. And there was a lot of people that were really disappointed that I wasn't their pro shop guy anymore. And we were on the city board, and we ran some tournaments in town. We did some other stuff, and we just finally had to say, we can't do this anymore. We have to step away. And it's really unfortunate to have to ditch on people because it's not sustainable for one reason or another. And that's unfortunately kind of what Chris Beans is going through too, that if any of you are fans of the Bowlers Rant channel, he's had some health stuff, and he's kind of ready to, the YouTube space is really challenging right now, and stuff just doesn't get the views that it used to get. And he just unfortunately had to make the decision. It's like, I got some health stuff I got to take care of. There's a lot of the space is really congested. Stuff's kind of getting stale. I just have to step away. And there's a lot of people that genuinely like watching his videos, and I'm sure that he's a good dude. And so I think he was genuinely kind of upset about having to do it. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So this long segment just to say that I appreciate everybody, and I try to keep that perspective of just there. It's not numbers. It's not numbers. It's not numbers. It's people. California bowling isn't even in California anymore. Sounds like a pyramid scheme. It kind of is a pyramid scheme, but people are willingly putting into the. Okay, there we go. Looking past all the nonsense for the regular staffer, I would still do some quality videos for any pro shop that needs a bowler. Yeah. And sometimes you do have to. The problem with the bowling industry is that everybody will, you think you got to invest your time, and you've got to get your foot in the door. And to their credit, Storm gave me the opportunity to begin with. I got absolutely nothing for staff credit. I was an advisory staffer for Storm only in 2015. And that was the year that the Haywire and the Menace came out. And so I had to miss those because I couldn't throw them. The next year, they bumped me up to let me throw both companies. So I got to throw Roto Grip. The second year, the third year, they gave me a couple $100 of staff credit. And then at that point, the YouTube channel had taken off far enough that they actually gave me enough credit. And this was just when it was Storm and Roto Grip in like 2018, and the ball releases weren't anywhere near like what they were now. They gave me enough credit to provide me a ball for every release. And then a couple of years later, they put me on the seed program and they left my budget alone, that they just added an extra, they just auto shipped something earlier so that I would have time to get a review instead of getting the balls at the same time as all the other staffers and then scrambling to put something out. They said, well, we'll put you on the seed list so you get an extra ball, and we'll give it to you a couple weeks early. So that's why a lot of these staffers, if you're a staffer with a company and you don't understand, it's like, well, how does Luis have a video up before I'm even getting the ball? It's like, well, they get them shipped early because he's put in the work to get himself to the position where they feel like it's an investment and a reward to get him the ball and to get it to him early so that he gets the extra views for it. Because I had to, well, of course, I didn't really have a whole lot of, there weren't a whole lot of people doing videos 10 years ago. And if you look at the quality of videos from 10 years ago and even the quality of my videos from 5 years ago, kind of sad. But I just forgot what I was talking about. That happens a lot when we get on rabbit trails. But yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Yeah, you'd think it'd be easy for Storm to clear out the terrible staffers and just keep a core of good ones. Darn web host update errors. Yeah, see, the problem with that is that, again, the good ones are more expensive. Okay, so yeah, I was talking about my contract stuff. So they bumped me up to get a seed ball, and then they bumped me up to get 2 seed balls because I put Angel in a couple videos and she was really popular and they liked the idea there weren't any other women out there throwing bowling balls. And so everybody responded really well to it. It's like, okay, so we'll send you 2 now. And so I went all the way from nothing with one company, but by putting the effort and the work in myself, I got bumped up and bumped up and bumped up to the end where I was getting really well taken care of. Now you could say, here's the other thing that I have to wrap back around to what YouTube pays people. YouTube, again, pays the creator 55% of what YouTube gets to run ads on the videos. So if somebody gets, just to make the math easy, we'll call it 50-50. So if somebody gets $1,000 a month for their ad revenue, YouTube got $2,000, basically. So if somebody gets, if advertisers are paying YouTube $2,000 a month to run the shitty little annoying ads on your videos that everybody hates, that nobody can click out of fast enough, if advertisers think that the videos are worth them spending $2,000 a month to run ads on top of, what are the videos that people are actually searching for and wanting to watch? What are those worth? I find myself asking myself. And so when you think about it that way, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so they send me the equipment for the videos, but it's just like if somebody gets a contract with Red Bull, sure, Red Bull deliver them a frickin' pallet, but they're also paying them a lot of money too. Independent reviewers, most of the time of other products, will get the product. They'll just, okay, well, here's this, or here's several of them, try them all out, whatever else. Some of them might commission a specific video or specific advertisement within a video, within another review, or they might commission the review and pay just for that specific video. But I don't fault the company at all whatsoever, because it's kind of like, okay, so you put up a video that gets 10,000 views. We gave you a ball for that. We give you some credit. You're going to get incentives for that. So you're going to get, you're going to get the ball, or you're going to get 2 balls for the release. Then you're going to get the incentives for it. Plus we give you the credit. Plus you get the ad revenue from the stuff. And it's like, we have no idea how many balls you're selling. And I'm thinking, okay, well, YouTube is getting paid $2,000 a month, $1,500 to $3,000 a month to run advertisements on my videos, but somehow the videos themselves are worth less than the shitty, annoying ads that are being run on top of them, that doesn't compute. But circling back around, it's like, okay, well, we can take the resources we're giving you, and we can find 20 other people that are super desperate for anything that we give them, and we could have 20, 30, 40, 50 other people rather than you. And so you put it in that perspective and think, okay, well, I've got to be fiscally responsible with myself. They have to be fiscally responsible with themselves, with their company, with their business. So once you remove yourself from it, once you remove your opinion from it, it kind of changes things a little bit. So the fact that I was getting as much as I was getting, once I really thought through it, I was very appreciative to the company for how much I did get versus how much they really had to give me. And the other thing of it is it's just the bowling industry. If you're in the bowling industry, you're getting underpaid. Everybody that works for Storm could be making so much more money doing the same job for some other successful business or industry. So, they understand it, but they also have to look at the numbers too. And it's like, unfortunately, I think that they wish that they could have kept me. I wish that, because I'd said this before, it's like, I didn't want to leave. I said I'd be there as long as they'd have me, but it just got to the point where it just made so much more sense for both me and for them for me to just resign. Well, and that saves them from having to say, well, look, we got a lot of people doing content. We got an awful lot of resources going your way. We'd really like to shoot these off some other directions. People aren't getting the individual views on videos like they used to. Like I used to get 25, 30,000 views on reviews pretty easily. Now it's down to 10 or 15 for the popular ones and not even 10,000 for some of them. And so my numbers go down. Realistically, they could say, well, you used to get 30,000 views on a review. Now you're getting 10. So, you're not as valuable as you were. So we could catch you. They never did that. They never reduced anything. And that saves them from having to do that. Because I'm sure that's never a good thing. It's like, okay, well, it's like cutting somebody's pay, basically. It's like, you're just asking for all kinds of problems if you do that. And so, this is just a better situation for everybody concerned now, which is unfortunate. All right. Moving on. Yeah. I'm sorry. I bet most of the factory employees don't even bowl. I'm sorry to hear that you don't bowl because your Christmas bonus is an IQ 78. Yes, James, this is Zach. Yeah. Yeah, I still have the video of Zach's last 3 shots from his 3 hundo at OCs. Yeah, that was 2021, I believe, because it was the first year after COVID year. We got staffers who don't know that roto balls don't have sense. Yep, but you didn't hear that from me? Of course not. Yeah. Pure underarm, yeah. I don't know what this metal yellow first red, song meditation, son of peace, metal. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Yeah, at one point I thought being a staffer would be awesome, but I don't even bowl enough. See, here's the thing, is that if you work it right, if you work it to your advantage, being a staffer is pretty awesome. Like if you do the bare minimum, like this is the thing is I spent a lot of time, but I could do the absolute bare minimum and would have come out of it fantastically. I don't ever have to watch the staff shows. And that's the other thing is they have a staff update show every single week, given availability. Obviously, a couple times they have SY Storm Youth Championships or pro tournaments or whatever else, and they'll skip some shows here and there. But they have a staff update show every single week that people won't bother to watch either. So I wouldn't have to do that. I wouldn't have to read emails. I wouldn't have to do whatever else. I could half-ass a video and get that up, get my incentives, get all kinds of free stuff, buy whatever I wanted to, and not buy whatever I didn't want to, and could have been just fine. Yeah. One thing most local staffers don't know, if you actually reach out to them and discuss your contract, you can get more than just the minimum. Yeah, you can if you put a little bit of effort in. And see, this is the other thing too, is that this is, again, people accepting what they're offered. You know, to go back to the minimum wage thing, it's like, if you want a higher salary, then stop accepting what they're offering you. Because obviously, as soon as the whole COVID thing happened, and there was a lot of people that disagreed with it, but it made something really hilarious happen. It's like, okay, so people are unemployed due to COVID, whatever else. The government's paying them $15 an hour. Then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to go back and work, especially if you were somebody doing a job that was less than $15 an hour or even close. I would definitely rather stay home and watch movies and play video games for $15 an hour than go work for $20 an hour. It would have to be something significant to make me want to go back to work. They would have to put some kind of significant pressure on me to make me want to go back to work at that point. And so what that made happen, it's like all of a sudden, McDonald's, fast food, it's not pick on them, fast food, grocery stores, all kinds of these minimum wage paying jobs, all of a sudden they really needed employees. And guess what? Somehow they could pay more than minimum wage. It just turns out that when people stopped accepting, when they couldn't get people for minimum wage anymore, they have to raise the prices. And the big corporations like that, McDonald's can definitely do it, Walmart can definitely do it, and it really didn't hurt them that much at all. It hurts them a whole lot less to not have employees to keep the cash cow running. So that's the thing, is all of a sudden, don't accept what you're paid, you get paid more. It's funny how that works. Yeah, catching up. Yeah, sounds like a pyramid scheme rather than a staff contract. It kind of is, but again, I really don't blame the company. They're just accepting what people are giving them, basically. This is another analogy that I've got. So if you go into a pro shop and you're wanting to buy a new optimal idol, and it's on the wall for $200, and they say, okay, well, you can, okay, they're $200, but we're having a sale right now. It's a release sale. You can get them for $150 drilled. And okay, great, sign me up. You can still pay $200 though if you want to. Just a suggestion, just throwing that out there. And you as the customer would be, well, no, of the two, why would I pay more than I have to pay? You're offering it to me for $150, so why would I just voluntarily pay $200? That doesn't make any sense. No, none of you ever have gone into a store and bought something and said, well, I know that the sticker says that this thing's $49.95. Could I pay $70 for it though? I like the store and I like the thing. I'd really just like to pay you $70 for it. It's never happened, ever. So why would Storm or Brunswick or Motive as a company have a staffer say, oh my God, I just want a contract. I just want to be on staff. Why would they say, well, we'd really like to give you more than that though. We'd really like to hook you up. Can we send you like a couple cases of balls and some bags and some shirts and whatever else? They're not going to do that. Why? That's stupid. I mean, if you stop and think about this stuff for more than 10 seconds, it's kind of interesting what, yeah, sounds like a pyramid scheme, yeah. Yeah. Yep, pyramid scheme, yeah, this is the thing. Yeah. Yeah, we will not be reviewing California brands because I don't want my garage to burn down because those things throw sparks. Well, see, this is the thing. That's what the contracts used to look like. So the Lord Field contract, that's exactly what it said. You had to buy 8 balls a year at $125 a piece, and you had to sign 6 new staffers to be able to get a deal for next year. So that's why I don't know if it's still in the contracts anymore. I haven't seen one for over 10 years, but that's what it was at one point. Yep, patch pirates everywhere. Yes. this is another fantastic point from Parallax. Is all publicity good publicity? Is that why companies really don't care about the quality of staffers as long as they're out there? Yeah. And the Pete Weber quote, you would think it's like, gosh, he's a loose cannon. I don't know if I want a guy like that on staff. One of his quotes is like, love me or hate me, you watched. That's all you could do. Like, yeah, and that's the funny thing is I've got somebody for some reason that really doesn't like me right now. And so every single video I put up, there's always one dislike on the video, and it won't show you who left it. But it's kind of funny to go to every single video. It's like, every single video has one dislike for whatever reason. Just every single video out there has one dislike. And then somebody got in when I did the PBA thing the other day, somebody got in there and it just called me an arrogant jerk just straight off the rip. I'm like, okay, whatever. Probably am. But it's like likes and dislikes are all the same. It doesn't matter. You can dislike the video. All they see that is it's made people passionate enough to now liking or disliking the video should be kind of like a metric for the creator to say, okay, well, there's something about this video that a lot of people didn't like. And so I want to know why that is so that I can make videos that people like or that they want to watch. Just trying to get stale. And so, but YouTube sees it as interaction. It doesn't matter if people get on there and leave a bunch of comments and cuss you out. All they're seeing is interaction and impressions. And if it gets people emotionally invested one way or the other, they don't really care which direction that is. If it gets a bunch of views and a bunch of clicks and leaves a bunch of comments, whether it's polarizing or not, it gets engagement. And that's what's important. So this person thinks, oh yeah, I'm going to really screw with them. I'm going to get on there and I'm going to dislike every single one of his videos. It's the same as a like. It doesn't matter. Sorry to burst your bubble. Spending a bunch of time doing nothing. It's a beer from my buddy Jess. Still got a couple of these left too. Fairhope, Take the Causeway IPA. Like this one, it's a fairly malty IPA. It's got a lot of taste to it. See, yes, this is perfect. This goes with the point. The problem with minimum wage is they just import another group who will accept it. That's the thing, is that's exactly what goes on with staffers. So you have the good ones that say, well, I deserve more than this. I work hard. I show up. Again, the staffers, it's like, I'm always posting stuff on social media. I put a bunch of videos out there. I'm marketing, I'm advertising, I'm customer service, I'm technical support. I'm all kinds of these different things. I deserve more than what I'm getting. And they're like, but yeah, everybody else, we have a line 1,000 people deep that will accept a high five and a thank you for the same thing. So exactly this. And see, the problem with staffers is this exact same problem. Very good point. Very good point. But yeah, that's the thing. It's the same thing. People in the bowling world are so desperate to say that they're on staff of the company. They'll do more for less than everybody else will. And that's the thing, is that some people, and that's why I said that's why I wasn't trying to be too on top of it. Just go get another job. It's like, that's not really an option for some people. So a job, whatever it pays, they need something. They have to have something. So if you're in those kind of situations, and we've been in those kind of situations, so I don't really need to get too deep into our own family history, but when you're working in a pro shop and you're making $28,000 a year, that doesn't really pay for anything. And when your wife is having to work, an extra job for $8 an hour, that's not much more of anything, but just costing her a bunch of sleep and not helping us out a whole lot. And, going virtually bankrupt because I'm trying to work a bowling job. We were in the same position when we got married. We both made $10 an hour, and she had 2 kids. So, been there. So I hope to not offend anybody. That was not my intention. I just, oh gosh, you want to make more money? Just go get another job. Chuckle, chuckle. That was not the direction that was going. But we've been in that position many times. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, we answered that one. Yeah, if you average, there's very low requirements to get a PBA card. That's the other thing. Job hopping exists because they eliminated pensions. That too. And so, yeah, it's more beneficial to job hop than it is to stick with one job anymore. Yeah, no money in bowling. Yeah, this is another good point, Parallax, is that, yeah, you don't need to be a member to bowl regionals, but you can, members get priority. But if they don't fill up, the non-members can get in. Yep, golf and bowling are very similar in structure. It's just the golf has bigger sponsors pumping money into it and bowling doesn't. The problem with bowling is it's a whole lot harder of a sport to understand. You can see all the hazards, you can see all the challenge in golf, and you just can't see that in bowling. It's just it just looks like you're throwing a ball at some pins. Yeah. Last place in PBA would be like minus 30K income a year. Exactly. Once again, I'm going to go back through these. Thanks very much to Thomas for dropping me a $15 super chat. It's really appreciated. Yeah, why go work at Walmart when I can sit here and drink beer and talk at a camera? And people send me money for it. Appreciate it very much. As a consumer, I look at a ball arsenal like a set of golf irons, and that's exactly how I tell people to. With golf, all my irons are the same make and model with shells. I need 4B73 SPI and a motive. Frustrating, yeah. That's kind of what it is. But too many people look at bowling balls as being like too special. That's the other thing. That's kind of the issue that people have fed into the bowling ball craze and whatever else. They got to do that because they think that staffers think that they have to move product. Or say oh my gosh, well this ball is already this and it's the same thing. It's super clean through the fronts. It's really stable in the mid lane. It's got a big back end and it's hard. I've only had it for 2 weeks, but it's already become a staple in my bag. You need to rush out and get one. This is a must-have ball. And it's like, okay, apparently they're all must-haves, but they think they have to do that to keep their contract. And that's created an unfortunate effect where people think that bowling balls are a whole lot more magical than they actually are when they're kind of like golf clubs. If you this ball is used for this situation, this ball is used for this situation, but people get so into bowling balls that it's hard to not kind of feed into that because if I make a bowling ball review, it's easy views. It's a whole lot, they're the easiest to make. They're fairly time consuming, but they're the biggest bang for the buck, basically. They're the most rewarding for my time and effort. Making something informative or technical or whatever else just isn't really worth the time. So I disagree with that. Being on staff is still a cool thing, and most people still strive to be on staff. It is, and it isn't. Until it depends. It depends on what level you're at. But I think that there's a lot of people that probably remember how it used to be. And it just, unfortunately, the opinion of staffers has gone very far downhill, and it's the fault of bad staffers themselves. It's just they don't do it. I don't want to be a staffer because I don't want that negative connotation anymore. People just don't look highly of, they just don't feel highly of staffers or regard them highly anymore. Media Productions. Yeah, Luke Rosedal Media Productions. Super chat. Thank you, Chris. Look for the S.O.B.cast next drink on me. We will be out in Vegas in middle of July. And I think, you texted me about that a couple days ago. So yeah, we'll be out in Vegas in the middle of July to bowl nationals. Great time to be in Vegas, but we probably won't. I think we're only going to leave South Point a couple times. Yep, haven't read ball reviews in years. There's no point. It's stupid. Yep, thanks again to James, who does so much for us. Basically, our Discord would not function without him, and we've got so much extra stuff in there that I don't know how he keeps up with it all. Speaking of the patterns, does the center charge you to put the patterns out? Most centers will, and we actually, the center that we're at for the first year and a half that we were there, they gave us the employee rate, which was cool. But with my Cool Wick thing, Cool Wick is very cool because we get 10% of our sales, we get that back as staff credit. And thanks to all of you that have bought so many jerseys with my code, I have quite a bit of staff credit to use. And Cool Wick does not care whether you use it for yourself or you use it for other people. They want you to do giveaways. They actually require their staffers to do at least one giveaway a month. And they provide them with plenty of credit to both keep them in their own product and to do giveaways. They just want to put the product in people's hands. It's a good product, and they know people will buy it if they get it into their hands. But one of the things that I do is that I'm able to. I can't spend all this stuff in jerseys for myself, and I really don't want to. And so one of the things I do is for the bowling center that we shoot the videos at, I comp league jerseys for their youth program every year. And so because I do that, they let us bowl for free now. So yeah, all I have to do is send them a text and say, hey, I need a pair of this. I need a pair of chromium for whenever, they're so busy that most of the time it's either Friday afternoon when I film my stuff, and then Sunday most of the time when I film everybody else's stuff because they're so busy the rest of the time. But yeah, otherwise that's one of those things you'd have to have a good relationship with the center. So, but again, that's one of those things that does kind of work out. We don't have to pay for our bowling anymore because I'm able to comp they get jerseys for their youth, the youth bowlers in their youth program. And I have enough credit to just take care of that. So, but that's thanks to everybody. That's really nothing. That's one of those things that's not necessarily anything I'm doing. I mean, it kind of is, but I'm not the one buying the jerseys. And so all the people that buy the jerseys and use my code, that's where a lot of the credit goes. It's buying jerseys for youth bowlers. So, Chase Valenzuela's ball reviews. Yep. Under 6 minutes, scrubbing the ball well, good thumbnails. I've heard of him, but you can understand that I spend so much of my time making ball reviews. I don't even want to watch my own, let alone somebody else's. Every once in a while, I watch some stuff. I like watching the hype, Charles Hutcherson stuff. But I really don't catch a whole lot of other people's stuff. That's something I've also wondered along with the lead-in time Luke has to give before my local alley. I try to get a pattern laid out once a month, and it's $10 plus 2 to 3 days notice. I try to give them as much notice as possible, but I already kind of know the times. And so it's like I'm either in there on Friday or we're in there on Sunday. And so we kind of communicate back and forth, and he's just like, well, just send me a text so I can put it on the books. But we've been doing it for long enough that it's already kind of worked in. So, dumbass Cone Fund, yeah. Holy crap, I'm really behind on these. Yep. I enjoyed the live stuff. I really enjoyed watching a live stream for the last weekend's PBA telecast. A lot better to listen to than Randy. I appreciate that. And I like the live stuff too because it's just, I like having conversations. I don't necessarily like making a video and talking at people. You don't really learn anything that way. And again, this is what I said in the opener. Just because I say something or think something doesn't mean it's true. There's a lot of things that I will get on. It's like, well, no, this is definitely the way that this is, and then somebody will give me some extra information or a different perspective, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm wrong. And so I will actually, a lot of my people in Patreon and in Discord, I'll put all the time. I will put stuff in there about, hey, what do you guys think about this idea for the videos, or what do you guys think of this thumbnail, or what do you guys think of this, or what do you, because my opinion is that everybody, like every single person on the planet, no matter what age they are, is better at something than you are. You know, even you can have a frickin' 1 month old that is better at taking a nap when they're tired than you are. I mean, just we're watching through MasterChef Junior, and there are 8-year-olds that can cook better than I can. And so there's no reason to get uppity or get an ego just because you're better at you put good ball videos on YouTube, or because you can throw a heavy object at some weird looking sticks better than somebody else can. That doesn't make any sense. I've got an awful lot of very smart people. They're in my Discord that make me feel really dumb. The majority of the time, it's just I'm kind of an idiot savant with ball reaction. I've got a really good set of eyes, and I just get ball motion. But there's a whole lot of smarter people. Like we put in a new router and a modem the other day, and I fought with it for 2 or 3 hours, couldn't figure it out. And so I pinged IT support. We have a bunch of different roles for people. Like we have a role for metal music. We have a role for gamers, I think now. We have a role for this, that, and the other. And we have a role for the people that are in IT, who just get in there and tag the IT people and say, help me figure this out. Because I need to get internet back. I need to get back to doing stuff. And it turns out that I bought my wife found a modem that was smarter than I was. And I thought that it had 4 Ethernet ports on the back of it. And I thought, okay, well, that's great. I don't have to use this this Ethernet switch now. I can take that out of the rotation. I can just plug all that, because we actually have a whole home Ethernet system. So the whole house is wired for Ethernet. And so I can have the computer upstairs hardwired. I can have the TVs hardwired, whatever else. And so we just have 8 cords going to various different TVs and computers and whatever else in the house. I thought, okay, cool. There's 4 ports on the back of the router. There's 6 ports on the back of the router. There's 4 ports on the back of the modem. And so I just plug everything in, and I don't have to use the Ethernet switch. Well, it turns out that a couple of ports on the back of the modem was for Ethernet aggregation. And it was just not handling having the different ports in there. And so as soon as they walked me through that, it's like, okay, well, thanks for paying me to be here and give me tech support. So that's one of those things that's why I like doing the live stuff, to wrap back around to it, because I like having conversations about stuff, because I don't want to be just an echo chamber and put up stuff and then argue with people about how I'm right. Because there's been a lot of people that have challenged me in comments before, and we get through the conversation. It's like, oh, okay, I'm wrong. So, and other people have good opinions, and sometimes you need somebody that's, away from something. Sometimes the best vantage point is from people that are not in your situation. Sometimes you're a little bit too close to your own situation to see things clearly, and it can take somebody seeing it from a different perspective to really help you out. So, while I actually physically do and am responsible for 100% of the content on the channel, I have a lot of testers. Put it that way. Yeah, that's a labor of love thing. The 5,000 view for a video having been worth it making is something I definitely understand. I watch Spare Time Podcast and wonder how they're being supported because YouTube for them is like under 100 views, and that's the thing is that the other guys on Sweep the Rack, they don't get anything out of it. I don't even think that they're monetized. They might be monetized by now, but they just do the podcast because they like doing the podcast. So yeah, the house program, or the house pregame, plus Luke's real time play by play, bowling nerd heaven. Heck yeah, yeah. Exactly. You ain't lying. I can't click off those stupid commercials and interrupt videos fast enough. They're useless junk that pisses people off while they're watching a video on YouTube. Yeah. But if they didn't have the ads, then you wouldn't have very many YouTube channels. So it's one of those things where the ads are the price you pay for having the content to watch in the first place. And that's the thing. Yeah. If there was an ad revenue or something happened with that, I'd be gone faster than you can. I'd probably still make some stuff, but there would have to be other considerations. It might go 100% membership or something like that, because it's like, man, I already don't get to do anything now. Like, I watched my mom's birthday was a couple days ago, and so we went out to lunch with her, and I've got a bunch of videos to make. We shot for the Optimum Idol and DNA Coil with Tobias yesterday. And I also shot for a couple of motive balls. Plus, I have a bunch of report cards to catch up on. And so I just need to, I can't keep up. I just have to keep working on videos. If I'm not at my day job, I need to be working on bowling videos. And so if something live is happening, live sports, whatever else, and even the only way I watch the PBA telecast live is if I'm doing a live stream commenting on them. That's the only. So that was the other thing. It's like, okay, well, I can't justify taking the time out to watch these telecasts. I'll put them on in the background when I'm at work tomorrow or whatever. But the only way I can justify actually watching the telecast live is if I'm doing a live stream commenting about it. That's the only way I can justify taking the time. And so we're in Jayhawk territory. I know that KU's like one of the KU basketball is kind of like Duke or North Carolina or whatever else. And the team's not good this year, but this is the first game. We got back from eating lunch with my parents, and the game just happened to be on, and I'm like, well, I got to stream in a couple hours. I don't really have a whole lot of time to go work on. I don't really want to get into working on a video and then have to break away to come do this. So yeah, I'll just sit down and chill for a change. And that was the first game of the year. We got a pretty good team most of the year. Or most years, most of the time, and this is the first game of the year that I actually got to watch. Definitely regret that decision. It would have been a whole lot more worthwhile to get some work in on a video. But see, yeah, this is the thing, is that somehow advertisers think that those stupid advertisements that everybody hates are worth thousands of dollars a month to run those stupid ads on people's videos. But the videos themselves aren't worth anything other than the ball to make the video with. Odd. I myself do YouTube Premium. Yeah, no ads for $15 a month. Heck yeah. Yep. Yeah. See, this is the thing. Apparently, listening to Beef and Barnsley. There's something to that. There's something to Randy still being there for some reason. So it's something I'd love to do, but nobody knows who I am really, and they'd be better off getting Norm Duke or somebody else to. They need a professional, somebody that's been a professional bowler to do that. I think that works better. I wouldn't tell them no if they asked me, but I think the model of sponsoring content creators directly works better from the ad perspective. I bought stuff based on in-ad videos, but don't even watch the Google ads. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that people have said something about being on Twitch before, and that would be something interesting, but I don't even have the time to do what I do. And see, this is the thing why I don't really advertise Patreon or Discord much, because I do have a Patreon, I do have the YouTube membership thing, which unfortunately, the YouTube membership, there's not a whole lot to it. It's basically just an extra way of supporting me for the stuff that I already do. There's not a whole lot extra that goes into that, unfortunately. But we have a ridiculous community on Discord. We've got like 30 different channels. We have fantasy leagues, basically, or virtual community leagues. We have a draft for people, and then run our own kind of community fantasy league. And we have a show for that every week for a recap and a preview of the next week. We have a dog channel. We have a kid channel. We have a entertainment channel. We have coaching threads where you can just get in there and say, hey, I need some help with this or whatever, that and the other, and you get help with it. We have fantasy football leagues that we had 20 teams for last year. There's just all kinds of ridiculously cool stuff. We have tournament groups that we organize. We have a group that comes to the Kansas City Open every single year. We had 7 or 8 teams last year. Our people traveling all in to bowl this tournament. We have a Greater Ozarks group that we started, 2 that we're doing this year for the first time. There's just an awful lot of really cool stuff that goes on in there, and it's only $5 a month. But I don't advertise it much because I like the community we have, and over promoting that or just trying to get all kinds of people in there, I don't want to upset the dynamic or make that any crazier than it really has to be. I want it to kind of exist organically we have a very specific, great type of people in the community. And I want to make sure that, and I don't even though it's only $5 a month, I try to be in there as often as I can, but sometimes it's just not quite enough. I can't keep up with all the coaching threads, and I can't keep up with what's going on in this channel and that channel and whatever else. And I don't know. I like to be a little bit more involved. What happened 20 times last telecast was terrible. Yeah, I wish more of the regional bowlers did content. Feel like there's a growing population of national tour and reviewers, but not a ton of regional. It's just because they don't want to spend the time. They want to actually be out there bowling instead of making videos about bowling. Yeah, shout out when during COVID, my server friend was getting paid 1.5 times as much as me while they couldn't work. I was stuck working. Yeah, that was one of those things. I got 5 weeks off, but my particular job was I traveled full time inspecting bridges, and so it was just me and another guy in a truck by ourselves out there walking around on bridges. And so it's something that it's federally mandated that we have to keep up with and stay within a certain schedule. And so we were under some very specific restrictions and a bunch of hoops we had to jump through. But yeah, they gave us 5 weeks off, and then we had to just get back to it. So I was working the whole time, or almost the whole time. That 5 weeks off was glorious, though. Very fond memories. Yep, McDonald's, the corporation, is not a restaurant business. It's a franchising and real estate company. Yep. Yeah, I would buy way too many bowling balls if I could get them 150 drilled. That's what most staffers are on for. They want the prestige, and they want cheap stuff. Now there will be 2 dislikes on every video. Yeah, but I know where they're coming from now. It's engagement. It's all engagement. Yeah, the difference in the golf arsenal analogy is that in golf you actually see different scenarios. If I only bowled on house shots, I'd only own 4 balls. Yeah. I mean, that's fair too. However, I think that most people could go golfing with a lot fewer clubs than they really need, and that's the whole bowling thing. It's like, do you really need the clubs that are so close to each other? Because most of the time I hop around. Do you really need like a 10-yard difference? A bunch of clubs that give you like 10-yard differences between each one of them? Because people say the same thing about, well, this one's only a little different from the other. You could make the other one work. It's like, yeah, if I'm, my 140 to 150 yard club is a 7-iron. Could I do without that? Could I just use a 6-iron and hit it a little bit softer, or use an 8-iron and hit it a little bit harder? Probably. I'd rather have the 7-iron though. But I could go golfing with not a par 3, whatever else. I could go golfing with a driver, a 3 hybrid, a 6-iron, a 9-iron, and a pitching wedge, and the putter. So I could go golfing with like 6 clubs. But I take like 11 or 12 just because might as well use them. But people like to get all abstract about bowling. It's like, well, if you were really good, you could. It's like, not everybody's 10 cup. I'm sorry. And if somebody wants to take 12 clubs out to golf, I don't care. If somebody wants to bring 3 balls to league, cool. If somebody wants to lug in 9 balls to league, that's cool too. I don't care. Yeah. I will say on the staffer front, I have no idea who is and who isn't. As a new bowler, seeing people with 160 averages with full jerseys confused me for a few months. Yeah, well, that's the cool thing is that jerseys used to be kind of douchey, but it's like, I mean, you go out and bowl or you go out and golf in nice golf polos and whatever else. Why not feel comfortable? Like I actually wear the Cool Wick like Black Label stuff, and Hammer's got a new line, and the Cool Wick Elite stuff, the nice polos and things. I wear these to go golf in because they're great, and Cool Wick stuff is significant. Like if you get a fast track or a quick ship Cool Wick jersey for like $40, it's this super nice material that's got the quarter zip on it and whatever else. You're golfing in one of these things instead of paying $70 or $80 for a golf polo. Code Rosedall10 gets you 10% off. Code Rosedall10 gets you 10% off at checkout at Cool Wick. Yeah, and see, this is really how it should be. Watch the ball review videos plus my research. I like to watch your videos, Brunsnick, JR, Luis, and the Hype. Yeah, I mean, you got to watch different videos to see, because sometimes people's stuff do crazy different things. Like Luis sent me some because he's got a Brunswick guy that's doing stuff now, and he sent me something. He's like, yeah, the outer limits pearl is just too clean. He couldn't really get it to hook, and I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the strongest shiny ball I've ever thrown, ever. And it's not particularly close because the exotic gem is still strong. I could throw it though. I made it work for the review, and that was on a house shot. On chromium with the outer limits pearl, I was chucking it, flagging it. I don't know if you know Tyrus Page or not, but Tyrus was lofting 7th arrow with his outer limits pearl, and I'm like, man, your dude got something defective, because me and Tyrus can't keep the ball in the lane on the proper correct side of the head pin, and you're telling me that your guy can't get his to hook. So that's why you've got to watch several different reviews. And again, just because I say it doesn't mean it's right. I may get sometimes things are weird. Like my Eternity was terrible, but it looks great for everybody else. But my personal Eternity was one of the worst balls I've ever thrown. 14th and 40 inside the cut with 1 to go. I think you're safe. Yeah, YouTube Premium's amazing. It's worth $15 a month. Yes, dude. I clicked on what was it? When you click on the ones from YouTube, they take you to they open up a Chrome page and put it in that. And I'm like, okay, I just want to click through it and watch some of these. There were 2 ads to start the video, and the first one was like 1 minute and 40 seconds long. I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm just watching this on the app because I have YouTube Premium, so I can skip all that stuff. So yeah, YouTube Premium. Yep, shout out Luke for the PPLN plug, Panda Pack League Network. Cam and Max. Favorite YouTube channels? Probably the Hype, Charles Hutcherson. Right now is kind of one that I like the most. And again, I like some of the other ones, but I like to watch some of the underdogs or the new ones coming up. Because once you watch somebody for a while, there's a whole other rabbit hole about YouTube stuff and how that all works. Yeah. Like to hear more about your day job. It sounds interesting. Yeah, it used to be bridge inspection. And so I would travel. I worked for the Department of Transportation. I would travel all over the state, full-time travel. And so I would work February, the start of February, we would start going out. I'd leave on Monday. We'd be gone all week. I'd get back Thursday afternoon. And that was that way all the way through Thanksgiving, most of the time until about December, into November 1st of December. And so, yeah, we go all over the place and just inspect bridges. And it was a lot of fun. I got to travel around and, hotel life was not good sometimes. And sometimes there's parts of Kansas that are kind of remote. So there's not a whole lot to do. But there's a lot of cool places here, too, that I got to experience different restaurants, breweries, parts of the state that I never would have gone to if it wasn't for that. Now I'm in bridge management. So I am on a screen like 16 hours a day, which is potty Bessie. But I'm in bridge management now. So instead of inspecting the bridges, I manage a couple of the applications that have all the bridge information in one way or another. Contract information and build information and blueprint information and all kinds of extra stuff. So ever shoot par with a 7-iron day? 10 cut, baby. Put me a rake and a. Yep. Can't wait to get the hammer effect. I just bought. That ball looks wicked. Yeah, it's all the Brunswick stuff's crazy. It all hooks a lot. But Eternity, yeah, it's terrible. Oh my gosh, I caught up. Yes, and this is the thing, is that some of the area Luke has on Chromium with the right ball. Yeah, and this is what's weird, is that sometimes easier patterns are not easier. I think that the best ratio or the most scoreable ratio is like 6 to 10 to 1. 6 to 1 to 10 to 1. Basically, that's like the easy zone. Once you get higher than that, higher than 10 to 1, they start getting really cliff. So they're really dry on the outside and a ton of oil on the inside. So you get a bunch of over-under, much under 6 to 1, and it starts to get flat and a little bit more difficult. It's Puffy's time to go to bed. I know.
I was going to ask if you could start wrapping up final thoughts.
Yeah.
Tonight is time change.
Oh, time change.
So
spring forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to be at Deb tomorrow morning. So
okay. Yeah, but on Chromium, it's a challenge pattern, so technically it's like kind of somewhat tough, but it's easier than a lot of house shots. And in fact, I told him before, I was like, man, if you guys put Chromium down as the house shot, the averages would go up because it looks somewhat difficult on paper, but there's not the hard bumper to the outside, so it's a whole lot more blend in the pattern, but it's still not super difficult. It's still not super flat, but it's not super cliffed either. So most of the time, it actually is pretty okay. Yeah. Yeah, the hype is one of the ones right now that is it's kind of funny because the channel name is the hype, but he doesn't hype stuff up. Like he is his thumbnails are good, his titles are good, his editing is really slick. I like how he presents the channel, but when it comes to just reviewing stuff, there's no hype. There's no nonsense. He's just like, yeah, let's just check out this ball and see what it does. And he just sees what it does and he calls it like he sees it. And then that's just kind of that. He kind of, but again, he's got to play the game. He's got to put the thumbnails up that's like, man, this thing is crazy, or this ball hooks, or those taglines that suck people into watching the video. But it's not really clickbait when you deliver after that. And there's some people that just bait people into watching the video and then they don't really deliver. They actually deliver hype and nonsense. But you got to get somebody to watch. But then if you can deliver after the fact, then it's kind of okay. Yeah. I bowled on Chromium at a different house for a tournament on Super Bowl Sunday, and I thought I had a decent idea how it played after watching your videos, but it played a lot different than I thought. This is the really funny thing, and this is actually why we use Chromium, because Dave and Mike used to use Chromium. They used to use mostly the challenge patterns, and it would be like, okay, so Chromium at Olathe plays completely different than how it plays at Summit, which is completely different than how it plays at Aaron's, which is completely different from how it plays at Royal. So it's very, and that's the other thing, is that when you can have one pattern, but when you have a different lane machine with different oil on a different lane surface of a different age, that's why the whole thing is weird with patterns. It's like, well, why do we need patterns? Because it doesn't really, if people go to nationals and we bowl the Bowlers Journal squad, which is the Bowlers Journal, which is supposed to be the doubles and singles pattern, and then we bowl the team practice session, which is supposed to be the team pattern. But even on last year in Reno, they had the Bowlers Journal on the low end, the Bowlers Journal stuff on the low end. If a pattern can play different in the same building with the same lane machine with the same oil on the same lanes, if the pattern can play different on one end of the house than the other house, or the one just gets the Bowler's Journal, just gets double and singles run over and over and over again. The tournament lanes have team doubles and singles, team doubles and singles. So it gets different. There's something to be said about pattern memory and all kinds of other stuff. And so if a pattern again can play different literally in the same block of lanes in the same building with the same oil with the same lane machines putting them down, then there's no hope for anything else. Yep, and then somebody else is yeah, see, I really like Beef and Barnsley's stuff, because those guys Stu does not give a shit. Stu does not, he's just going to say what he's thinking, and that's just going to be that. Still, you don't have to worry about those guys. I mean, they kind of got to, okay, well, we got to put on a good face for the companies and whatever else. But those guys they're more focused on, and Chris is old enough to where he's kind of past a lot of he's past the nonsense of, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to tell it straight up, and the truth is the truth, and trying to sugarcoat it doesn't help anybody, or just you get to a certain point where you're like, I just want to say, I don't want to censor myself, I don't want to beat around the bush, I don't want to tiptoe around stuff. I've kind of gotten that, again, like I was talking about this earlier, but I've kind of gotten that way with the channel, where it's kind of like, you know what? I don't want to jump through the hoops. I'm just going to make the videos. I'm going to say what I have to say. If it's over 8 minutes, great. If it's 4 minutes long, I don't care. I'm just going to make the stuff that I want to make and just deal with the fallout. And I think it's kind of like that for. And Stu's just one of those people. He's like he's just going to say what he has to say, and if you have a problem with that, then sorry. And I think Barney's been around the block long enough that he's kind of in the same headspace, and he's always been more that his nickname's the technician, and so he's always been more on that kind of different wavelength where the truth is the truth, and that's kind of just that. So. Yeah, see, this is the thing. The PBA patterns are very, very scoreable. They're kind of in the same zone as they're difficult on paper, but they're in a good spot where they're very scoreable when you're consistent and make good shots, but they'll weed out they won't let you get away with anything either. So, yeah. Brunswick equals freedom to speak. Congratulations on the freedom to do what you do so well. Appreciate that. Love to see some heavy oil monster review comparison. I need to get one before summer. I can't decide between brands with stuff. I think the Gem and the Gem, the Pure Madness, and the Extreme Envy are the three the three ones that you have to decide between. I think the Pure Madness is the smoothest one of the three. I think the Extreme Envy is the strongest one of the three. And the Gem's just a really nice blend of both. So you could probably flip a coin on those. And you made the lefty-righty switch so well I can throw with either hand, but the steps for a killer. I can golf with either hand too, but my left-handed power was lacking. And see, I had kind of easy, or not an easy, but I had kind of a slow ambling transition into that because I hurt my shoulder in like 2006 or 2007, and stuff started getting.
It was before then.
Huh?
It was before then.
Maybe 2005. I was 25 or 26, so whatever that figures out to. 2006, 2007.
It had to have been before I met you.
It was.
So that was at least 2000. It was before 2006 because that's when we met.
I was 25 or 26, so when it happened.
I thought you were younger.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I started kind of screwing around when I was in the pro shop. I kind of started screwing around left-handed, just for fun. And then when I hurt myself, and it's like, okay, well, I might actually have to try this. And so I did work into it for several years. And so when I switched full time in 2020, I had already bowled leagues I think I bowled 4 years lefty before, and had been practicing for 3 or 4 before that. So I didn't really work into it as quick as it seemed like, but I hadn't really taken it very serious. I'd taken it seriously enough because I just wanted to get better, but I always intended on going back to righty. The bowling lefty was just either for fun in the summer league, or I'll take a year off and give my right arm a break and whatever else. But I always intended to go back to righty. This time, it's like I'm just a lefty for good now. And I tried to switch back about a year ago, and that didn't work. So, yeah. Yeah, here's the other thing, too, is that the Kegel and Brunswick machines, the difference, the same pattern is crazy, which is really funny because the PBA uses Brunswick machines, and they can't do reverse oil. And so why they design PBA patterns with reverse and combined oil in them makes no sense. It's dumb. Yep, I've noticed that it's easier to see everyone else's ball reaction better than my own, mainly because I'm watching from the back. That's the other thing, is that having somebody with a good pair of eyes, it's very, very hard, or probably impossible, to see what your ball actually does before the dots, but even before the arrows, because you just can't physically pick the ball up and read what it's actually doing in that short of amount of time and that short of distance. So basically how you read the first 15 feet of the lane is how did the shot feel? What were you looking at? What were you aiming at? And then you have to basically calculate where the ball is at versus how it felt to see. It's like, okay, well, I put this ball down and it should have hit 15 at the arrows. It hit 17. It felt good. Everything felt fine. It felt like it was online. It felt like it should have been an accurate shot. The heads must be burning up. So it's a calculation more than anything. And if you go back and say, hey, James and I bowl on the same team, and sometimes he's like, what did I do on that one? Because I let go of it, and what happened wasn't what I thought was going to happen. And then I can tell him, it's like, yeah, well, I can see it because I'm back here, so I can see it, what happened in the first 15 feet. He can't, and kind of vice versa. But yeah, I like the Beef and Barnsey channel too. They're straight up and tell it like it is. That's probably why I like your channel too. No BS, just plain talking. And that's what I try. It's not, and that's the other thing is that Stu and I have talked about this before, and they don't want, again, they're trying to make good stuff. They don't want to play the game or jump through the hoops of YouTube either. And so that's why everything is kind of basic, but they don't have the same following as a Brad and Kyle or a Packy or a Darren or whatever else, because those other guys play the game a whole lot more. Stu and Chris don't play the game, and it shows because they don't have near the following that the other channels have. And it's not for lack of being good or lack of whatever else. Hi, buddy. Good buddy. Oh, good buddy. Hang on, buddy. Here's the cone head. He ran into something and got a cut under his eye, and it had to get stitches. And so he's been in a cone since Monday. He gets his stitches out Friday, but we've been having to babysit him and pamper him because he's just a giant toddler.
Excessive pampering. He's been up on me for the last hour and a half while I was sitting on the chair. My legs are asleep. Yeah, they're thought if you can create huge angles, 95% of bowlers cannot do this. Yeah, and that's the thing is that it really weeds out. They're just right on that line where people bowl PBA challenge leagues or whatever, then all of a sudden they understand. But the bowlers are so good that they put those right on that line where, again, like I said, they're scoreable if you're in the right place with the right ball and know what you're doing and can be semi-consistent. But if you're not, they'll play like they're a whole lot tougher than they actually are. So that's why I like some of those challenge patterns. They're just right in that range where they're not like punishing, because there is a certain point where you compress, where the shot gets so hard that you artificially compress the skill. There's not enough skill gap where it's just soul crushing for everybody. And so 160, 170 average bowlers are going to average that on virtually everything, because they're not accurate enough to take advantage of something easier. But again, they're not accurate enough for a tougher condition to really hurt them that much, because they're kind of spraying it all over the place anyway. And so they're just randomly going to hit some pins. They're going to leave some spares. They're going to pick some stuff up. And so you put a 230 average bowler on red square, and they're going to be shooting in the 180s and 190s. You put a 150 average bowler on red square, they're probably still going to average 150, because they're just not going to notice. Better?
How do you feel about the left-right balance oil patterns? You think it's in a good spot? I think the lefties are having a tough time this year because the urethane rules changed, and everybody wants to talk about the crutch of urethane and whatever else. But the big issue is that, and this is something that I'm in a very unique position to speak on, because I bowled so long on both the right and left sides of the lane. Righties don't understand what an advantage having track friction is. Throwing anything on the right side of the lane is basically like a lefty throwing a purple hammer, because bowling on the left side of the lane, there's no track friction. And so you don't know how much that changes the stability and the mid lane control of stuff, how much it changes
how accurate you have to be. Smaller misses result in bigger consequences on the left side of the lane, because if you get a ball going a little bit too far out, on the right side there's track friction, and so there's a little bit of stability, and so it'll still kind of pick up and keep it on line. On the left side, if you get a ball going a little bit outside, there's no there's nothing for it to pick up on, and so it just keeps going.
Would those that have had their lanes replaced possibly understand it a little better?
Yeah, if you've ever bowled on a fresh install, then you'll understand, because there's no track friction, so there's no stability, so misses are penalized a little bit more. Stuff generally doesn't hook as much, but because stuff doesn't start hooking as early, everything kind of skates, and then as soon as it hits friction, everything's a boomerang. Everything turns sideways. I mean, there's a reason that, the Packy, Butters, whatever else can play third, fourth arrow with a purple hammer and get it to actually back end, is because there's not near as much friction in the track, and then that makes it a whole lot sharper on the back end. So everything's a boomerang. I mean, if urethane balls act like reactive balls for lefties, imagine how reactive balls actually act. So having like the pitch black and the purple hammer for the lefties was kind of an equalizer with the right side of the lane, because this is just one of those things. When the conditions are easier, the lefties have a significant advantage because the shot's not going to change. There's no transition. The tougher the pattern is, the more at a disadvantage they are, because it starts out tough and there's no transition. There's no track friction, number one. And so everything's longer and sharper. On the right side, there's earlier track friction, so everything's earlier and smoother. That's why you don't see near as much. Your urethane's not as useful on the right side. It's not in play as much because they already have early and smooth, and urethane just makes everything earlier and smoother. On the left side, everything's long and flippy. So if you use something earlier and smoother, it kind of counteracts things. So on the right side, everything's earlier and smoother. So if you use stuff that's longer and flippier, it blends everything out. So reactive stuff generally looks better on the right side, no matter what the pattern is. And urethane generally looks better on the left side. Left side kind of really no matter what the pattern is. Even house shots that's what really drove me nuts about getting on the left side. I'm like, this is a house shot. And this is brutal. Absolutely brutal, because everything turns sideways. Everything, if I made this, and that's what really challenged me early on, is like, okay, I'd miss a couple boards inside. On the right side, that just holds. That's a frozen road. On the left side, it's a big 4. It's like, I've got to chuck it at 5. On the left side, 5 is in play on every pattern, on every lane surface, period. 5 at the break point is just a lefty staple. But you don't really have inside of that. You can get outside of that if you're playing straight enough. But inside of that, like if I'm aiming at like 6 on the right side and I hit 8, it's going to hold pocket and strike, probably even if I hit 10. On the left side, if I'm aiming at 5 and hit 7, it's a Greek church or a big 4 every time. There's no, if you miss a little bit inside on the left side, you just turn around and walk back. But if the pattern's soft enough and you have a couple boards to work with as a lefty, they're so used to aiming at so much smaller of an area. That's why generally lefties dump it down the side. You don't see a whole lot of rev rate. And so that keeps the ball more online. It keeps it more stable. And so if you give them a couple boards to aim at and the shot doesn't change, they're going to absolutely murder it. However, on the right side, they have transition. And so if the pattern's tougher, it's like, okay, we'll just stay out of trouble for the first couple games and then wait until the lanes open up and then get your big scores. Well, that didn't happen on the left side. If they start tough, they're going to stay tough. And so you need stuff that gives you the same effect that's on the right side. And so that's really just the thing. The easier the pattern is, the more the lefties have the advantage. The harder the pattern is, the more the righties have the advantage. And on tour specifically, the pitch black and the purple hammer were again the equalizers. Now that they don't have that, now that they have the harder urethane, which is still really good, but is only effective from like straighter, the black hammer is really good. The IQ 78 is actually better than I expected it to be. But if you have to open up the lane at all, not going to be a thing. And the new blue is a little too it's close, but it's better lane shined on a house shot than it is sanded on something tougher, unfortunately. But it is different. It's the first time in a long time that I can remember that I think that it's actually a step forward in bowling technology. I'm kind of excited to see that cover on some other stuff. Because I think it is a little bit of, because there's typically been a pretty big gap because between like a purple hammer and the next closest thing reactive wise is freaking huge, and the new blue is just right in the middle. So it is actually something really cool. But that's why I think you haven't seen a whole lot of lefties have much success this year. And you can say, okay, well, I guess well, if they can't use urethane, I guess they're just not that good. It's like, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. If you made if righties didn't have transition to work with, I don't think that they'd be near as good either. Even though they have track friction, I think if you made righties bowl on a fresh lane every single time, if you worked it out somehow, had really small squads, and the righties had to bowl on a fresh pair every time, I think you'd see a much closer, tighter range even though on a fresh, symmetric pattern that's difficult, the right side has the advantage because they have track friction, the left side doesn't. I think that you would see a whole lot more competitive. I think that just makes lefties a little bit more accurate than righties. Have to pay attention more to how the ball goes through the pins. Lefties, you have to hit what you're aiming at. If you hit what you're aiming at, I kick a whole lot more sevens than I ever did on the right side with 10 pins. The carry percentage is higher if you hit the pocket on the left side than on the right side, in my experience, but it's harder to hit the pocket on the left side than it is on the right side. So lefties have to hit what they're aiming at, righties have to get the ball to go through the pins the right way, and each presents its kind of own challenge. So if righties had to bowl on a fresh shot every time that they moved, you would see a whole lot more even scoring pace. But right now, with the lefties having some kind of limited options and the righties having track friction and transition, I think that's just created the difference there. Yeah. Yeah, Stu and Chris will straight up tell you this ball is drunk. Oh, didn't see this. Thank you. This is to buy tape to put above fingers on axis for solid ball. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I keep forgetting. I threw a black ball the other day, and I just completely forgot to put anything on there, even for a few shots. And that's all you're really asking for, is just something for a frame of reference. I just keep forgetting. Just finished watching the Delaware Classic. It was me or was Kroll stubborn with making a ball change in the last two games. I was getting tired of watching him chuck the ball in the air halfway down the lane. So this is the thing, is that I don't think he was stubborn, because the lanes, for whatever reason, the left lane has been a problem for everybody. Like, aside from Tim Foy, the first game, nobody else on that telecast at any point had the left lane. At any point, nobody had it. It was just an absolute travesty. And the guys all week long had been getting left pretty quick and then lofting. As a matter of fact, if you see the clinching shots from Boog, he was lofting to the arrows for his clinching shots in the last game to make the TV show. And so that's kind of what they were used to. It's just the left lane disappeared so much faster. And you'll notice they weren't doing that on the right lane, because the right lane was tight down lane. They had trouble getting the ball to actually finish on the right lane, but they couldn't get the ball down the lane on the left lane. And so at some certain point, you also have to think, it's like, okay, well, if they would rather continue to just loft more and loft more and loft more, if that's better than just going back right and giving it the high hard one, that's one of those things that you kind of have to think of that perspective too. It's like, they're professional bowlers, they're the best of the best. And if they would rather do this nonsense lofting gutter caps, if that is a better option in their opinion than moving back right, then like, how bad is it going down the right side? But they were used to moving left. that's the problem with bowling, is that you don't know what's going to happen until you throw the shot. And as soon as Bill O'Neill got in there, he was really confused too, because Boog threw those couple of Brooklands, and then once Bill moved in there, he moved left, and then all of a sudden the ball, he moved like 2 or 3 boards left, and the ball hooked significantly more, and he went, oh, wow. Okay, so we finally got what was happening. But if the ball hooks too much and you make a move and it still hooks too much, and then you make another move and it still hooks too much, and then you make another move and start lofting, it still hooks too much. At what point it's kind of like, well, what do I do? I'm moving, I'm continuing to make adjustments, and nothing is working. You don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work until you throw the ball. And it's just, unfortunately, whatever has been happening with the left lane on TV, they've just had problems with it, and it's one of those things, you can't predict it, and you can only throw the shot and adjust to it. And if every single adjustment is wrong for whatever reason, it's just kind of like, I don't know what to do at this point. I think that was really just what they ran into, is just they didn't experience that. What happened on the left lane, they didn't experience that at any other point in the rest of the tournament. And so it's just, there's not enough, sometimes there's just not enough game to get it figured out. My new blue goes a bit long for me. Have read others hit it with 500 grit. Yeah, if it's going too long, just hit it with some surface. It responds really good to surface. Let's go back to the Bill Taylor honor roll finish. He convinced Straub to lay down at Nebraska. Yeah, I talked to Mike Shea about that crap. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Is the staffing issues with the ball companies also the same for accessories? Yeah, because those companies don't even have as big of a budget as because you're not going to be making videos for the accessory companies. It's kind of funny because I'm on with Turbo, and even if I wasn't on with Turbo, I would still use the stuff, but I don't talk to them at all. I don't even order stuff from Turbo because it's actually cheaper and easier to get if I just order it from. So we order most of our stuff from Bowler Smart because it's just cheaper and easier to get it. Because Turbo doesn't have their out of stock, like half their stock most of the time. And the only time I talk to them is once a year when I'm signing my contract. It's kind of cool that Carolyn Doran Ballard is my rep for my area. I called her, I've texted her, I've sent emails to her. She's always really responsive and she's great to talk to and whatever else, but I don't really need to talk to her about anything. I'm not going to go out of my way to bug her just to say, hey, I talked to Carolyn Doran Ballard today. So I talk to her once a year. She sends me a contract. I fill the stuff out, send it back, and we're done. And they send me a package. I get like 40 grips and 20 slugs and a like a cool jacket or something, and we're good to go. So. I don't know how true this is, but I heard the reason the left lanes were so wonky were because of the ball return track. I don't know what they meant by that. Well, yeah, it's just, they said that it was easier to get left on the left lane, and so they moved too fast. But I don't know how the lane just gets completely obliterated in parts of the lane that they haven't thrown on yet. That doesn't make any sense. Why did the right lane hold up better? Even though they moved left too fast in the left lane, why did the right lane hold up better? The left lane, they kept moving because they were forced to keep moving. The right lane just held up. So why did the right lane hold up better? I don't understand. Wait, you're still going? I don't know what this is in response to because, well, it happened 5 minutes ago. I don't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. Yeah, what B&B mentioned about moving back right on that show is that they don't know what scoring pace to expect. If they know 190 will win, then you move right. But if you don't know, you don't need 230. So yeah, that's the thing is, it's a whole lot different if you need to strike versus if you just need to, put marks on the board. All right, I need to get off of this thing. Thoughts on interchangeable thumbs? They're great if you drill a lot of balls If you frequently have issues with your thumb shrinking or swelling, that way you can have several different ones drilled. The cons are that sometimes the sleeves come out, sometimes cores will swell and you'll get stuff stuck in there. That would be, most of the time, slugs will come out, and so the ball will come back without a slug. Sleeves don't come out near as often, but when they do, you just can't use the ball anymore. If you have backup thumb slugs, then you can just put a new thumb slug in that ball and can keep using it. So there are some problems with it, but the benefits, I think, depending on how you throw the ball or what you need. Like, I just use slugs, but my thumb is just round. I just use a round thumb hole, and so I just put the slug in, drill it out, and little bevel on the top, and I'm done. If you have a more complicated thumb, again, if you have more trouble with it swelling, shrinking or swelling, or if you drill a lot of balls and your thumb holes are typically difficult to finish or get them to feel right. Some people are big on feel. If you have an oval and you need a certain amount of bevel, or you need a certain bevel in certain places, and it's tough getting thumb holes replicated when getting drilled, or you might just go to a shitty pro shop and say, my God, if you can just hit this line, then I'll take care of it from here. Then yeah, there's pros and cons, but it really depends. Just going with slugs are best for me because I don't really need. I can go with a couple pieces of tape, and if I need them, or take the tape out, or it's just a round hole, a little bit of bevel on the top, so I don't need to invite the interchangeable issues. So, all right, I've got 1 inch of beer to finish. Any last questions? Then I'll get off of this thing. Hopefully I'll have more of these. I intended to do like at least one of these a month and talk about kind of more serious, hard-hitting issues, but without being like dramatic and crazy about them. I just like talking about different bowling stuff. And everybody said, well, we need more positivity in bowling, but I'm a troubleshooter. I did heating and air for a while. And just a lot of things, inspecting bridges even is troubleshooting to a certain extent. I have to find the problems and then recommend the solution. And so it's one of those things that it's like, okay, well, if somebody's air conditioner isn't working, I find the problem and I fix it, and that's positive. That results in a positive, but there is a problem. And if you find the problem and solve it, then it's positive. But a lot of people say positivity is kind of like, oh, well, you just need to be positive about the situation you're in. It could be worse. Maybe it's still kind of nice outside. So even though your air conditioner isn't working, it's not as hot as if you were in Florida or something. So it could be where a lot of people use positivity to say, well, just don't see the negatives. You just need to find the positives in every situation. It's like, well, no, you look ahead to the positives. It's being positive is not dwelling on a certain bad situation, but thinking, okay, well, it really sucks that our air conditioning doesn't work, but I've called somebody and they're going to come fix it. That's the positive. It's not positive. Being positive is not ignoring the situation you're in. It's looking forward to the situation you're looking forward to. Hi, bud. Hi, buddy. Hang on, buddy. Let me put my foot down. Hi, buddy. You coming? Hi, buddy. I know, buddy.
He's gonna get all the way up there.
Hey, buddy. I know. Hi, buddy. I know. You're ready to go to bed, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
How long are you going to take me? 3 hours? Yeah, I know. I can talk forever. It's one thing I can talk. How long do you think it's going to take me to finish Final Fantasy X? Well, if you keep streaming and I coach you, it'll take a whole lot shorter time.
Yes.
Boy, I can just tell you how to do everything. I am your strategy guide. I played through that game so many times that I don't need a strategy guide anymore.
No, because you wrote your own.
I did write my own for Final Fantasy 12. Most of it. I think it was 50% completed for Final Fantasy 12. Need to troubleshoot angry boomer bowlers. Well, I'm turning in. Well, I'm not. Actually, it's kind of funny. As I've become more of a boomer, I've become less angry. That's kind of weird.
No, I'm thankful.
Yeah, Jopo slugs. Sorry, Turbo, but Jopo slugs are better than switch grips. Bad staffer. Don't care.
Well, we don't use the scripts.
I've always said that it's not my job to lie about a product. It's your job to make a product I don't have to lie about. Jopos are better. Toxic positivity. Exactly. I am not negative because I want to sit here and whine and complain. I am negative because you find the problems, you fix the problems, you're automatically left with nothing but positives. Venom Shock versus High Road Solid. High Road, woof. That's an old one. Stormdog, yep. Thanks for the stream. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the super chats. Thanks for hanging out. I would like to do this at least once a month because obviously I have way too many things to talk about.
So much static.
So much stuff.
There's always, in the bowling industry, there's all kinds of stuff to talk about. I'll have to figure out the topic for the next one, but I'm sure that won't be difficult. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate so many of you commenting, chiming in. I really do like the discussion. I don't like an echo chamber of my own thoughts because it's more interesting talking to you than talking to myself.
You talk to yourself more.
Yeah, I do. I talk to myself all the time.
No.
I'm right a whole lot more often when I talk to myself. But anyway.
So now that I know why you don't talk to me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Optimum Idol and DNA Coil videos hopefully will be up tomorrow night. Probably not. I still have to finish writing the one for the Optimum, and then I have to put the videos together. So it might be Monday before I have those out, and then I film for the Venom Shock and another special ball. If you know, you know. There should be a, and then I will be working on report cards, so I'll be getting those caught up. The Vivo is the next one on the list. So, thanks everybody. We will talk to you all later.